Stewart.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, as we go into this Christmas holiday, remember that you are our leader, you are our king. As we serve you, that we build this community to be a safe community. Between our commissioners and our concerned citizens, that we build a community that our children and our elders will be safe in and feel at home in. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The purpose of the regular business meeting is for the Board of County Commissioners to conduct the business of Bonner County publicly. Regular business meetings do not constitute public hearings wherein the public has the right to be heard on every agendized item. However, at the discretion of the chair, everyone may be afforded an opportunity to speak on a particular issue, if recognized by the chair. Any unrecognized comments or disruptive behavior will be grounds for removal from the board meeting by the chair and may subject the person being removed to criminal prosecution according to law. The purpose for the public comment segment of the Board of County Commissioner business meeting is to enable citizens with issues or concerns which they wish to bring to the board's attention and afford an opportunity for consideration on a future agenda for possible board action. The board will not engage in dialogue with the presenter during this session, but rather may choose to schedule the presenter's topic for board consideration at a future business meeting. Questions may be directed to individual board members for the purpose of clarifying issues or to obtain additional information for the purpose of scheduling the matter for a future business meeting. However, no action will be taken on any issue or concern brought to the board's attention during this session. The chair will not entertain under any circumstances comments derogatory in nature toward any board member, staff member, elected official, or member of the public, with the caveat that we will abide by the guidance that was issued by our prosecuting attorney and decisions of the United States Supreme Court. And today we are going to adopt the order of the agenda first.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to amend the order of agenda to move the public comment to the end of the meeting to allow our employees and department heads to get back to work, since sometimes it becomes a very lengthy thing.
I would further amend, well, is there a second? I will step down from the chair and second that motion, and I would amend the main, I will step down from the chair, remain step down, and move to amend your motion to also have the District 1, 2, and 3 commissioners' reports follow the public comment. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There is a motion and a second for an amendment. Is there discussion amongst the board on the order of the agenda on the amendment?
So the business meeting is not supposed to be used for politics, and that's the reason for switching this up. The public need to be able to speak before we get into the agenda, as this board is picking and choosing what items people can comment on, and specifically so that their agenda can have the last word. That's not what this meeting is about. And so in advance kind of what I'm anticipating, because I read stuff, one of the things is, during one of these meetings, it was all about how the board wanted to take control away from me of what I'm elected to do. During that, I made a comment that I didn't use the best word choice for the feeling I had over the treatment that I was experiencing. Wasn't a good word choice. So we don't need you to play a video and give people the last word of being derogatory. Let's just do the public business of the public, because they may have a question of me that they should be able to answer. We've done this regular and consistently this way for years, not just this board. So let's stop using it as a personal agenda. And I'm going to encourage the public to not be agreeable to this. This is not for politics, it's our business. I prepared based on what this agenda was written as. If you would like that, I suggest that you do a workshop and discuss the order of the agenda with the public, because this has nothing to do with staff members leaving. It has nothing to do with that, because reasonably you have actually addressed Ms. Messer multiple times, but you're actually requiring her to sit here for the whole meeting because you want to put District 2 and public at the end, instead of allowing her to give her comments and determine if she's done what she is here to do early on. So let's not pretend it's for the business of the public.
Is there any further discussion amongst the board in regards to the amendment to the original motion?
Yeah, I think the key word in Commissioner Williams' statement is business. This is a business meeting, and business should be taken care of. And so let's do our business meeting.
The thing is when you look at commissioner reports, only one commissioner actually reports on what it is that is being actively done in the community. I don't read you news articles. I don't tell you what's going on at different levels. I tell you what I'm working on, what I'm planning, and what actual work. And so that is the business of the county. And that it has been what some people actually come here for, and then they choose to leave after that section because they don't have an interest in the other parts of the business meeting. Your move actually does the exact opposite of what you claim to do. If we did district report first and public comment, people could look at this agenda, which is not actually that filled, and say, I don't need to sit through all this stuff. I can go home. But you're making them have to sit through it for an audience, for a political agenda. And if you two vote that direction, it is not because you care about the public. You're not caring about their day, because they should get to leave right after if they want to.
There are 52,000 people that reside within Bonner County. Those people rely on the services that are statutorily obligated. And when we have taxpayer public servants that are sitting here for hours, that is not serving the general public. Roll call vote.
I'm sorry, I have a comment after that. You're making them sit here longer. That's what you would be doing. So you're allowing people to leave by the way this agenda is listed. You are then making them. And it is actually, there are tons of people in Bonner County, but when you have people that fill the room, whichever side you're on, you fill Zoom, we owe it to them to make sure that they're heard. What you're doing is say, listen to all of this and then stay longer. So I would like you to explain how not allowing them to speak first and listen to district reports first is in the best interest of the community, because the business of the county is actually the people. And so you really should be including the people on, would you like to wait until the end to speak? Because more and more we stifle the comments unless they're slated in the direction that the two of you want to go. But if you truly care about the people, why don't you open this up? Because you went straight to a vote. Why don't you open it up and say, would you like the option to leave after those two? Or would you like to wait the sometimes 3 hours it takes us to get through the other stuff? Because there might be something someone else has to do. So if you truly care, you would open it up to the people that are here.
Thank you for your comments. Roll call vote.
No, it's intentionally disingenuous to the public and a political stunt. It's not reasonable. Now you've made it so that every employee and every person of the public has to sit through a very long discussion only because you want to control, here's the point, all of the legal opinions that have come out
Commissioner, a
that he
vote
doesn't
is
want you
yes,
to hear.
no, or abstain.
And I will actually
Continue.
so what I get to
Yes.
do, so wait,
Continue with the vote, Madam Clerk.
you
Thank
don't get to bypass my
You've
vote.
already,
You actually don't. It
well,
doesn't
there's
matter.
three options of which you seem unable to be able to provide a yes, no, or abstain answer. So my vote is yes. Please proceed with the vote, Madam Clerk.
So the clerk
Yes.
does not have the
motion-
right to, you
the
don't get
motion
to bypass
passes.
the commissioner's
We have
vote.
now,
Arms work for all three of you or just two of you?
Just the two.
the way it works in a
But-
democracy is
Does
actually,
arms like do something about you behaving this way?
So what you have
the
is.
motion
you-
has passed.
The motion
We will now
hasn't
vote
passed.
on the way math works is that if two people vote in favor of something, that's a majority. So,
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the order of agenda as amended.
again, I will step down from the chair and it is seconded. Roll call vote in regards to the amended order of agenda.
There's no actual amended agenda because you bypassed my vote, and all you're gonna do is get Lewis to chime in and tell you what you did was wrong. We need to cure it, so you're wasting our time. It actually, you guys
I
don't,
agree.
you actually don't get to say I can't give a comment about how I'm voting. So you show me in Robert's Rules of Order that says it's yes, no only, no explanation of a vote.
I will do so, but
Well, do so in real time since you're gonna make a decision right now.
please carry on with the vote, Madam Clerk. Yes,
Yes.
the motion passes. The order of agenda has been completed. Our first item on our amended agenda today is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, based on the information before us, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I will step down from the chair and second the motion. Is there any discussion of the consent agenda as presented?
I have
There
none.
wasn't enough papers out to be able to see what the agenda is today. When I came in, I didn't see the extras.
Would you like some copies?
I'd like one copy.
How many members of the public would like, because I will get some copies. I'm going to take a 1-minute recess and go make some copies. So it's 9:11. We have, well, I believe we have another individual who is looking for it. I'm going to go make some copies.
Here's one. If anybody else need one?
How many do you want me to print?
Hey, we're
Would-
good.
Over here.
Nope, there is it.
Oh,
Let me just go run and make, it's 9:11. We're at recess for 60 seconds.
Probably half a dozen or so.
Okay, I've already done it. Anybody else? Yeah, Mr. Willie, yeah. Any other members? Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You are welcome. It is 9:13 and we are coming out of recess. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda?
Jennifer, I'm for the record. I think if you have a legitimate reason for making the change, fine, so be it.
Is
So be
this
it
in
the
regards to the consent
change in
agenda?
The consent agenda, but, people don't like change made right in the middle. Change it for next week. That would be, if that's what you decide is a better way of doing it.
Ms.
then
Arden, thank you.
Change the
But that has
consent.
nothing to do with the consent agenda.
I'm talking about the consent agenda.
You're referencing the,
We are all reading this consent agenda, because this is what
That-
we're prepared,
Ms.
right?
Arden, that is not the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a number of items that are produced by different departments that are aggregated together, and when the board comes together, they vote to give their assent or dissent.
Okay, thank you
I believe
for
you
that.
are referencing the order of the agenda, which has already been presented and passed.
Right, and it's different than what everybody was prepared to look at, and I just know I'm old, I don't like change.
That's not
Oh.
on the order of
But the
So
whole,
if-
It's not on the order of
this whole meeting will likely have to be redone because you can't, he removed
I would
public
just
comment, which was
prefer-
agenda.
Public
more
comment has not been,
advanced.
thank
It
you for your
was on the
comments, Ms.
agenda.
Arden.
Public
Thank-
comment was on the agenda before you changed the agenda. So
Thank
you
you.
should have allowed them to speak before you even went into that. But you actually changed the agenda and then asked to change it farther. So I don't think you're going to win this argument because you changed the
All
order.
right, so
It was pledge public comment. At a minimum, they get to speak first and
that
then you
is not
change.
accurate. All right.
That's
So,
what you
We have a
agendized.
motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion amongst the Board of County Commissioners regarding the consent agenda as presented?
I didn't see anybody
We already
else
voted on
give a comment or you
On the
say
consent?
public comment
Yeah.
closed.
We haven't
Voted
voted.
in?
No, there is a motion and a second.
Yeah.
In regards to the consent agenda, roll call vote.
Did you close public comment?
Yes, I did when I said, is there any further discussion amongst the board? But thank you for bringing that to my
That's
attention.
actually not the same
Rel-
as saying public comment closed. Now it goes to discussion.
This is not a hearing, Commissioner Williams.
It's Robert's Rules of Order. If you're going to follow it, that's how you would do it.
I believe
That's what you would
Mr.
do.
Almond is the chairman.
Commissioner Williams?
Commissioner
No.
Williams. Did you hear that, Madam Clerk?
I said no.
Yes.
Yes.
The motion passes. Our next item on our agenda is emergency management with Mr. Zoller.
Good morning, Nick Zoller, Fire Mitigation Program Manager for Bonner County. Today, one agenda item, the attached contract is between Bonner County and Morrison Grit LLC to provide project work for the,
Commissioner, I have a point of information.
Uh,
There are people on Zoom that are not showing up on the screen that are attempting to make comments. And I'm wondering why they would not be showing on the screen and not able to make.
Because there's more than one screen, but thank you, Mr. Hutchings, and please proceed.
Well, there was somebody that. tried
Mr.
to-
Hutchings.
I'm telling you, somebody tried to make a comment and they were not on the screen and you did not allow them to make a comment. And I'm saying you either have a technical issue or people are purposely being made that they can't make comments.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Mr. Spencer.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Mr. Zoller, please proceed.
okay. I'll start over with the description. The attached contract is between Bonner County and Morrison Grit LLC to provide project work for the treatment and/or removal of hazardous wildland fuels at locations in compliance with specifications for the bonfire program. There will be no county match as this contract will be funded through an IDL, Idaho Department of Lands grant. I would recommend that the Board of County Commissioners accept and sign the contract for professional services between Bonner County and Morrison Grit LLC.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve and sign the contract for hazardous fuels treatment between Bonner County and Morris Grit LLC for the project work on the bonfire program funded by an Idaho Department of Lands grant with no county match.
I would second that.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on this agendized item?
Give more for the record. And so is there an amount that we're giving Morrison from IDL? Is there an amount that you typically know is the contract?
No, nothing is being awarded at this time. This just allows for solicitation of bids.
This allows for the Morrison to bid for doing this.
Yes, to bid on a future project.
So there is no bids to be made yet.
Yes, correct.
And you said locations, and so that's numerous. But so somewhere down the line, you'll give us an update as per the number of locations and the amount.
Yes, and all that is on the bonfire website. All the grant locations and the amounts are from previous meetings.
So is this a new contractor, Mr. Zoller?
This is a new contractor.
So this is a new contractor that is entering into our bonfire program. All this does, and correct me if I muddle this allows them to participate as one of the approved contractors to be able to receive public dollars in accordance with the requirements of the grant.
Correct.
So you say this will be on a website, but not everybody is a tech person, me included, or me specifically. So somewhere along the line, you'll come up and stand in that lectern or whatever and give us an update as per the numerous locations.
Mr.
The
Moore,
number-
As they win the bids on location.
as the projects come up, so landowners are able with the bonfire program, which is one of the hidden gems of Bonner County.
There's many hidden gems in Bonner County.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, are you good with your comment? Did we answer your questions, Mr. Moore?
Yeah.
All right,
Then
thank you.
hopefully later we'll find out more is what
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Ms. Bowman.
Susan Bowman for the record. We are experiencing tyranny.
Oh,
Thank you.
Mr. Kramer.
Mr. Kramer, for the record, so you made a comment that there's another screen. Could you please explain to us and the people out there where the screen is and how you could call names from it?
If there are more people in the queue, then there will be different icons for Zoom that tech will be able to see. So there would be, if it's extended, there's not multiple. I'm talking about in the internet, but that is not the agendized item. But thank you for your comments,
No,
Mr.
but these
Kramer.
people should be
Mr.
part of
Kramer,
the agenda.
this is the agendized item and this is the business meeting. Thank you. All right. Is there any further public comment in regards to this agendized item? Is there any discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners?
No comment.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Zoller. Our next agendized item is risk with Mr. Jocelyn.
Good morning, Christian Jocelyn, Risk Manager for the record. I have before you a request for the Chairman Ahmad to sign the third-party administrator TPA contract with Travelers Insurance. The draft version of this contract was reviewed and approved by legal back on September 6th of 23 during our SIR renewal process. SIR is our self-insured retention insurance. BOCC approved the contract with Travelers back on August 24th of 23. This updated contract with Travelers has been approved by legal again due to the updates. Basically, the first draft version just had filler for you put in Bonner County, that type of thing. There is no new or additional funding or payment related to signing of the contract. The cost of the TPA is included in our SIR premium already, so we've already paid for it. And Risk Management requests that the Chairman Luke Amat sign the attached contract, as well as the DocuSign version sent by Travelers to us. And the DocuSign is simply the electronic version.
Yes, the one I asked you if it was a phishing scam.
Exactly, because it
Yes.
looks funny. It's good that you didn't click.
Mr. Jocelyn, could you explain for the board and for the members of the public, what exactly does a third-party administrator do and why is that before us?
Right. So a third-party administrator is basically like the claims manager. So if there's an insurance claim, they're the ones that collect all the information, reach out to the claimants, issue payments, have releases signed, that type of thing. And both SIR, self-insured insurance, needs a claims manager, as does a full insurance package. So either way, it's not a unique thing. You need a claims person that handles claims.
Thank you, Mr. Jocelyn. Is there a motion on the floor?
I hereby approve signing the TPA contract with Travelers Insurance.
I second the motion.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on this agendized item?
Yeah, Kevin Moore for the record. So, yeah, I appreciate the timing of this happening because I was hoping to bring up in a public comment this morning, whatever, something in coordination with this, whatever. Because last week, whatever, I'm going to use generic numbers here. The lady from the assessor's office was telling us that we had a $473,000 amount that we needed to put somewhere, whatever. And then we were also told, I think a week before that, that there was $10,000 that we were putting towards Travelers Insurance, and I may have these names wrong. And so can you explain to me simply, whatever, the 473, is that for liability for the county? And then the Travelers, the 10,000 is for the insurance of the buildings and such?
Mr. Moore, all right, let me know when you're done and I will try to answer with Mr. Jocelyn's assistance. I'm not going to engage in debate with you, sir.
It's not a debate, I'm asking a question
And you've
about
asked your question. When you are done, please take your seat and I will answer the question.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moore. All right, so the answer to the question, and Christian, please back me up if I'm getting any. First off, Ms. Stephanie works for the office of the clerk, and that was in reference to the demands on the batches in regards to the money. She is not employed by the office of the assessor. Second, there are different groups.
Did you say that again, please?
She doesn't work for the office of the assessor, two different elected offices with two different statutory duties.
She works for which office?
She works for the office of the clerk.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, in regards to the agendized item today, the TPA, this is in regards to our SIR, which is for medical type insurance.
Negative. This is our liability insurance. Yeah.
So for liability, and what does our liability insurance cover?
It covers, it's employment law, general liability, property. We have a stop loss in there. The TPA, of course, pays for that. Cyber, there's a bunch, and there's a whole package.
Got it.
But not the health insurance, but yeah.
So there are different baskets, and we are one of 2 counties in the state of Idaho, out of the 44 counties, that has chosen to be self-insured. That's correct. We have chosen, as is in accordance with state statute. It is the responsibility of the Board of County Commissioners to make that determination. Is there any other public comment in regards to this agendized
So
item?
is there an amount that we're paying for this third-party guide?
It's already been included, but I don't know if it's broken out individually.
If you want, I can answer the $10,000 question too, if you
Please
like.
do so.
So the 10,000 is not paying for insurance. The 400, that was to buy insurance. The 10,000, it's almost like an escrow account. What'll happen is Travelers is both our insurance company, and there's another Travelers division is the TPA, right? The claims handler, same company, but 2 different divisions basically. And since they'll be paying claims on behalf of Bonner County, the 10,000 is simply an escrow. We'll get it back someday. Let's say there's no more relationship with Travelers in the future, they'll refund it. All that's for is like a pool of money they can pay claims out of, and then they'll bill us for any claims. So basically, it's just like a fund, an escrow for them to pay. They're not going to give us their own money to cover us. That's what the 10,000 is for. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Leedy, do you have any comments on this agendized item?
Yes, thank you. I was just curious on when claims are made, does the public get to find out what the claim was for and how much the claim was for? And is there a way to go back and look at those records to see what has been paid out?
Mr. Leedy, it depends upon the claim. If it involves personnel, there is not necessarily going to be full public disclosure in accordance with state law. For example, if it is a medical claim, that is a business of the employee and it is covered by HIPAA. But in reference to the agendized item today and the purpose today, we are here to approve signing the TPA. But if you would like to contact Mr. Jocelyn, I'm sure that he would be able to provide you that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Ms. Kramer, on this agendized item.
Yes, Jennifer Kramer for the record. This is talking about risk and liability claims. And so by refusing to follow the order of the agenda as stated, are we not subjecting ourselves to a potential liability? Or are you not subjecting yourselves to a potential liability?
Absolutely not, because it is the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners to determine that order, and it is not something that would be adjudicated in the public court of law. It was voted, it was agendized, and it was voted on in public. Thank you for your comments, Ms. Kramer. Roll call vote, or excuse me, I stand corrected. Is there any discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners in regards to this agendized item?
No comment.
Oh, I apologize again, Ms. Welly. I almost missed you. I saw Mr. Welly, but go ahead, Ms. Welly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm not sure what seeing Mr. Welly has to do with me, but anyway, I'm just curious, is corruption a liability?
That has absolutely nothing to do with this. But absolutely, I 100% agree with you. Corruption is a liability. So is there any further discussion on this agendized item amongst the Board of County Commissioners? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
the motion passes.
Thank you.
Our next agendized item is with Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. J.
I've got quite a few items to kind of go over, but we're going to start with kind of some of the review. A couple weeks ago, you heard Commissioner Ama reference 31802, his desire to be the supervisor of Commissioner Williams' emails. That's the one where I got irritated. I'm sure we'll hear about that later. But legal opinion came back, and the answer from legal was BOCC overstepped its authority when it attempted to audit Commissioner Williams' email account. To the extent such audit is still occurring, it should cease immediately. So I read these things so that you guys also understand, because this is about the workplace environment. And so we'll get to my motion shortly. Civil order of protection was another issue that has come up more than once. It included Commissioner Bradshaw and Commissioner Luke saying that after consulting with our legal, that they were going to reach out to a third party regarding a civil order of protection. I did not vote in that, nor did I provide a comment, as I see it as a conflict of interest. Legal came back with an opinion that said BOCC petitioned the court for redress related to the order, opinion, civil order of protection, unlikely that the court would permit the county to intervene in the case and ask for clarification, modification, or otherwise any action taken by the BOCC related to the CPO, including the exclusion of a law enforcement officer from executive sessions, must be initiated by one of the named parties in the case at their own expense. There's also been allegations of unauthorized surveillance. The opinion from the attorney was body cam, no illegal search has occurred. There was also an opinion that came out this morning regarding proxy voting. During one of those meetings, I left abruptly, but I wrote down what my vote was, and the clerk read that. Legal opinion said that I wasn't allowed to do that, so they voided those votes, but the motion, they voted together, so the motions would still carry. And so we have also an opinion regarding Fair Board auditing. And I'm going to be very specific on this because we've got a lot of people that have an interest in the fair. And I had hoped to couple this with my district report on my commitment to work on that. But Fair Board auditing, the appropriateness of the clerk's office in drafting the request for proposal document and the Board of County Commissioners' authority to develop a committee that may affect the duties of sitting commissioners. Statutes were provided in the written response received by the Board of Commissioners. The conclusion, based on the review of the statute, stated, in conclusion, it is crucial for the BOCC to adhere to the statutory mandates and principles of independence in its financial oversight roles. Any deviation such as delegation, core control, or responsibility to a committee comprising PFO management or allowing the clerk's office to unduly influence the RFP process management or allowing the clerk's office to unduly influence the RFP process could undermine the integrity and effectiveness of the county's fiscal government and potential liability violation. And so I am requesting that the board review its auditing committee that they developed as it is not in compliance with statute. And at least maybe we could follow that one, because I think that that's huge for us as we move forward with our voting. Another issue that has come up is just the board is over HR. And so as you can see, there was a lot of dysfunction, and maybe it was good that it happened because it shows you the level at which this board communicates, but it's also how this board communicates to the people. We had an incident last week where one of the board members was profane in their response to an employee. That's not acceptable. That opens us up for additional risks and liabilities.
Careful.
It is
said in that meeting, Ms. Williams.
It is absolutely important that Bonner County recognize that whether or not you agree or not with the board members, whether or not I'm your board member or not that you like, we do not need human resources to be underneath this board. Employees need to be able to feel as if they have support. That is the job of human resources. And this board has overstepped its bounds regularly within this organization to the point where independent investigations were demanded to be released to the board saying we're over the board. The board itself as a unit is interrupting the daily functions of Bonner County business, which is negatively impacting the staff. And you have, as you can imagine, the divide. I don't want to be seen with you. I don't want to talk to you. Just let me get my paycheck and go home. It's a horrible spot to be in for an employee. We owe employees better than that. And I'm going to show you an example of kind of how people feel they can go around. And I think this is one where it's significant. So there was a time, I keep talking about the clerk versus Fair Board case, because this is costing us money. And so I actually reached out to legal on my concern, because when I email the clerk, he doesn't answer, but he sends my email to the other two board members. But I don't get an answer to the information directly. And so there was a discussion where the clerk wanted an attorney solely for a defense of a lawsuit brought. We don't have a lawsuit brought against the clerk's office for the auditing. But what happened then is the clerk sent a application from Holland, or a contract from Holland and Hart directly to one commissioner. Yet my emails go to all three. But I could see why we would do that if anybody had the interest of knowing how much this firm costs. 10% discount made it $491 for one person, another person $369, Another person, 435 to 1,140, and then the other 290 to 1,065. But the real kicker, and I did not know this, and I actually asked, should this contract have come before the board so that the board had an understanding of what happened? And it's because in the capacity of commissioners, Commissioner Bradshaw authorized a $20,000 retainer pull from our budget to this firm. I was not aware of that. So I asked,
I'm not aware
why
of it
is
either because it didn't happen, Commissioner, but please continue with your fairy tale.
You
That was
can,
authorized by
you can,
Prosecutor Lewis Marshall.
I'm speaking,
For
so.
the truth, Mr. Kramer, no, I will not.
So, look, I got the paper. So as we've discussed, this was not discussed with the board. We requested and you agreed to send us a retainer of $20,000 in advance of commencing work. So it's in the paper. I have an issue, not with the auditor addressing issues with respect to auditing. I have an issue with a lawsuit over records that was not reviewed and approved. I have an issue that my email has to go to 2 people, but a contract with this high of rates and $20,000 retainer that was pulled out of our budget was not transparent to the community to know. And this has been being spent. The $20,000 has been being spent. I have an issue with that. I asked the prosecutor, what is the role of myself? Because I owe it to you to tell you why we're $20,000 short. I owe it to you to tell you why the fair wants us to pay their bill of $27,000 related to this. I cannot do that if they don't give me the information. Further can't do that if somebody just goes around the board and talks to one commissioner. That is not how it's supposed to work. And so because of that, the only option that I received as to address this specific issue was to send it to the Attorney General and ask them to review, because we don't have that understanding of how did we pull $20,000. So you imagine the workplace of people feel entitled to not answer clear objective. And so that I can show you the clear objectivity of what I asked, I said to the clerk, I have requested information from your office regarding the litigation that you filed against the Fair Board. I would prefer that you provide the information versus me reaching out to Holland and Hart for information. I actually numbered my questions. 1, who authorized the suit of Clerk Rosedale versus the Fair Board? 2, who authorized the retainer of $20,000? 3, from what account did you withdraw the $20,000? And please provide with all invoices, bills, and case assessments. That's what I'm supposed to do. But what happens in this meeting is people make it seem like it's a circus in Bonner County when you're asking the right questions. He could be completely in the right, but the contract should have come to the board and the community should have known that we were actively spending, because if you recall, we had a meeting where there was a request to expand this contract to include a notice of tort. And my response was, no, we will spend money unnecessarily. There's your spend money unnecessarily. We need to protect what it is that Bonner County has. We can't keep playing, I can hide behind a commissioner. It's not right for the employees and it's not right for electeds. We need to be honest. And so one of the things that I'm asking, especially given the behavior of this board against staff that occurred last week, is that we move our human resources back underneath the prosecutor's office, because everything related to Bonner County that's not the way that it should be has something to do with human resources. So my motion is, actually, I'm going to read what I wrote because I actually sent it to legal for review. Prior to this board, human resources was under the prosecutor's office. The summary of recommendation was essentially to reduce risk resulting from human resources related issues. Currently, there are many issues with personnel in Bonner County, from employees to elected officials. We have an unprecedented circumstance of a civil order of protection against Commissioner Bradshaw. A few months back, I sent an email to Human Resources regarding the best practices and asked if it was reasonable and appropriate to conduct an investigation into allegations that were circulating the building. The Director of Human Resources requested said investigation. The investigation listed multiple policies and procedures within the county building that fail. Multiple county policies were reviewed. The conclusion with respect to the issue is that there is significant dysfunction, and this is one of the conclusions, significant dysfunction
Ms.
within
Williams, I
Bonner
think
County to
you're,
include the Board of Commissioners.
Revealing
We have a new human
information on
resources.
a county employee that was done in a special confidential
have
hearing,
a
and
new-
you're fixing to get yourself in a
We,
Whole pile of shit. Good luck with
We-
that.
Mr.
we have a
Ladies
new
and
human.
gentlemen, let's let her finish.
We have a new human resources director who is not able to do her job as described due to interference. We have a board that does not accept the opinions of legal. Employees who have grievances with this board deserve to address their issues and concerns without fear of retribution. Additionally, fealty to the board should not be the basis for advancement, whether that be in position or compensation. As such, given the independent investigation conducted by a specialist, it is my opinion that the Board of County Commissioners place the Department of Human Resources back under the prosecutor's office. I believe that this is in the best interest of Bonner County and respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners support such a motion. And to be clear, the statement that I made regarding what took place last week, I spoke with the employee who did want me to make that statement. So there was no inappropriate
So is that-
discussion. So my motion is that the Board of County Commissioners place Human Resources back underneath the prosecutor's office due to the risks identified in the independent investigation that was conducted.
Is there a second? There is no second. The motion dies, and I fail to see how anything that was just stated, but I'm happy to address pieces of that when we get into it. Your agendized item
So the
was
next,
word-
you failed it, so the next item that I have is credit card limits. So
No, there is no second. The motion dies, but my question for you,
my
Commissioner
next
Williams-
item on the agenda was related to credit cards. So I actually went back to the tape to make sure I quoted this correctly. So on 11/28 at the 11402 marker, Rosedale states, as far as the $5,000 budget, it is my office's policy. It is not my office policy. It was determined with credit cards, people have the ability to spend $5,000, and it is assumed to be in good faith, and things come through on the 5,000 credit card all the time that are paid without question, which I strongly disagree with. That's not my policy, that's someone else's policy. Legal heard that statement, and that statement is not accurate. Legal gave a response to the board that you have to actually show it's no different. And so if the question was whether or not we were going to continue with a $5,000 limit, there are departments where that really doesn't mean anything to them. And so there is no opportunity, for example, for me to go and charge $5,000 and not show a receipt, and then it comes to you as payment. I can tell you on example now, even though I attended a conference, I got requested for the luggage tag because they didn't find the receipt. The other one was the hotel associated with the conference. That didn't go through, and it was still on my credit card. So there is no statement. The prosecutor also said even in their own office, there was gas of an individual that was completely rejected because of no receipt and no statement. So legal said that it's not recommended to change that. There is an obligation for us to review it. There is a process that I don't think is reasonable. I don't think I should do the first step of approval for a charge on my own card. I think someone else should have to do that. But the county says that since it goes to the prosecutor or to the Mike's office, that's where that second look at a bill occurs. So I know that there are other people that wanted to have a discussion on the $5,000 limit, and if I'm wrong, let me know, but I think that the reason the question was wanted attention was the statement that you didn't have to provide receipts to ensure it was related. Is that accurate?
No.
Yeah, I'm talking about, I'm not asking, I quoted what was on the tape intentionally because I didn't want to misstate anything. No, I'm asking clarification of the person who asked this to go on the agenda, which was, yeah.
Ms. Kramer, this is not.
Actually, a board member may reach out to a
Yes,
person
I'm
of the
just
public, and
wanting
so
to
that's what I'm doing. So, go ahead.
Jennifer Kramer for the record. Yes, I asked that Asia put this on the agenda. Thank you for doing so. What I heard and how I interpreted it was if I'm an employee of the county and I have a credit card, I can spend $5,000, no questions asked, and it gets approved. And so that's why I asked for this to be put on the agenda so we could get some clarity and understanding.
And so that is not an accurate statement from what the prosecutor said. So, okay.
So, may I ask a follow-up? So do all expenses require a receipt in order to be reimbursed? Otherwise,
Absolutely.
and if not, the employee pays it out of pocket?
Correct.
So then I guess I would ask why?
I don't know the.
Let's address let's let Miss Kramer speak to the mic, and then we will bring up if This is Commissioner Williams' item. Ask your questions, ma'am, and then we will give the office of the clerk an opportunity to be able to provide the actual practices.
So that's my question is if there is no receipt substantiating the invoice or the item on the credit card, does the employee have to pay it out of pocket? And I guess a follow-up, are employees allowed to just spend and submit a receipt, or do they need prior approval that says, hey, I want to go to this conference, I want to buy this book, may I purchase it and charge it to the county? That's my second question.
So not all, not all employees have employee credit cards. It depends on what your function in the county is that you sign. And so there is a receipt process. There have been times when the clerk's office has not allowed for someone to have the expense. Specifically in talking with the prosecutor's office, he said that there was an occasion when one of his employees got gas and Vantage and didn't have anything, and they were told that they had to pay it on their own. So in a way, all I'm doing is correcting the statement. The process does require documentation. I am addressing the statement that was made in the meeting. And so if the clerk is going to dispute what was, that's why I gave the time marker. I'll just play it so he can hear what he said. That's what prompted people to ask the question. So I wanted to be exact on what was stated and not, and quote the statement. So that's all that I have for that. There's nothing to do about it since the prosecutor, excuse me, this is my item. And so it's not a vote. I'm done. I'm going on to my next item. I'm not arguing with the clerk.
No, actually, the chair also has a right. We aren't going to argue with the clerk, but this commissioner is very interested in what Clerk Rosedale has to say regarding
about his comment.
About the
his
information
comment?
and what Ms. Kramer made. Clerk Rosedale, would you like to make a comment on this? Or you?
Sure.
Please do so.
Sure. Can you hear me from here, or do I need
It would be appreciated so that the people that are online and for the recording, so that it will be best served for the public record. Thank you, Clerk Rosedale.
Sure, yes. The $5,000 statement that I made is there was a policy drafted probably 4, 5, 6 years ago that the credit cards can be spent up to $5,000 and they will be paid. We pay those credit card bills, then we have to sort out because those paid credit card payments are due on a short
monthly
3 weeks, 2 weeks. Yeah, whatever.
We do pay them as demands, but
Yes.
we also they have to provide receipts
Right.
for us to authorize that payment. We are not just paying it.
So those they
Correct.
have up to $5,000, and as you have the $5,000 threshold there are lots of things that are paid $5,000 that go under the limit for a board approved contract that happen monthly. There are some reimbursements or some charges that we don't ever get receipts for, and my office is restrained from trying to go after those or the clarifications. We get noise frequently on that, and I am not able to pursue some of those. And that is outside my hands. That is not mine. And so,
Pardon me. Go ahead, Mr. Rosedale. I just have a question for you.
The other thing I wanted to say, as far as the things on the retainer with Holland and
That's
Hart,
not what this agenda item is.
We're going to let the clerk speak.
I think everybody here, I think everybody does want to know the truth. So I was not, it was not my choice to be targeted. It was not my choice to have things come at me from the fairground. I was given a contract that said, I had coverage related to allegations that Mr. Rosedale failed in his official duties related to the finances and audit of the Bonner County Fair Board. That's all I was doing. I was trying to get records for that, and they were not produced. So I had to. The only other thing I could do was the only statutory thing I could do to get those records. As far as Mrs. Williams' emails, I did answer those emails. We scheduled a bill review hearing, as she and I think many of you know. When it comes to legal bills, those have to be done in executive session, and an executive session was done. When she asked who had paid that bill, I had also emailed that to her, who entered that bill and who approved the second claim on that bill. I had answered her emails on that, just so
Did
you all know.
include all 3 commissioners in that thread?
I don't know off the top of my head.
To be clear, what it stated was, my understanding of our representation is that we will provide the following legal services: act as conflict counsel for Michael Rosedale, clerk of district court ex officio. It specifically said to Bonner, related to allegations that Mr. Rosedale failed in his office duties related to the finances and audit of the Bonner County Fair Board. That is what the board approved representation for. You sued the fair over a records request. And that is what the county was expected to pay, because you used the same
It was a
amount.
petition to get the record.
You launched it. It was, there's no suit against
Why
you.
is it the elephant in the room is never addressed here? We have known for 4 months that I disclosed fraud in my fraud questionnaire. Why is that nobody is saying, what the heck
Who
is
else
this all
disclosed?
about?
Was there other people in your office who disclosed that
Nancy
fraud?
Twynham disclosed
Was there
fraud.
anybody in the
Jeff
Board of
Connolly
So a
disclosed
commissioner
fraud.
also disclosed
Why is
potential
this
fraud.
even a thing? Okay, anyway,
Actually,
credit
this
cards,
is
you're
the
right.
meeting
It
of the
doesn't
Board
have to do
of
with
County
credit cards, but it has to do with the
leaning
first
in
part
the
of that.
favor of what they want
to
to
get
hear.
back to the board of, to get back to our agendized item, and in regards to the credit card limits, could you just briefly address how, so who is responsible for approval on the budgetary in the Board of County Commissioners? Is it the commissioners, or is it not the elected official that submits the budget for their department and they have supervisory responsibilities for their subordinate employees?
Yes,
Clerk Rosedale.
the supervisor, so the Board of County Commissioners sets the budgets, and the different department heads say you can go to this conference, you can't, that kind of a thing.
So the assessor determines whether or not the charges submitted by his employees are appropriate to his department. You do your department in regards to approving some of those expenses. The and Clerk Coster, or excuse me, Treasurer Coster is going to look at if one of her employees uses a credit card, and she's going to determine if that fits within the budgetary restraints that are submitted to the public.
Yep.
Who is the person that is blocking you from obtaining the objective information for expenditures? Because we should address that one.
I'm not allowed to say.
I think that will be appropriately addressed at that quarterly meeting.
No, actually, if you're saying we're spending money without receipts, that
I can't-
actually qualifies for a 24-hour
can't say.
executive session, because our money's going out the window with no documentation, and that's not okay.
Oh.
So how is that not something that advances to, we need to take
So
care
are
of
you
it?
suggesting
I'm not taking the bait, Asia.
So we
It's
should.
not bait.
It's
You
bait,
made the
Asia. I'm
comment.
not taking the bait.
You know what?
You
Thank
made
you,
a
Clerk
very
Rosedale. Thank
significant
you for your
comment.
comments. We will schedule an executive session as appropriate to get back to our agenda. Commissioner Williams, I believe that you have one more regarding technology expansion.
Yes, we have a unique situation, and so when we have difficulties with who can be in the building, it's necessary that we have the option of Zoom. The telephone doesn't work. Sometimes people have documents that they're presenting online and you can't see it. Given our current circumstances, it is reasonable and appropriate that we actually Zoom all of the meetings for participation. It's also noted that during a special meeting that was requested by one of the commissioners, Zoom was actually used, but it was not notified to all of the community. It was notified within a few hours before the actual meeting, not allowing everybody to have access. Given the current situation and the decision of Commissioner Bradshaw to select the option to actually attend in person, as we go towards our winter season, I think it's reasonable to allow that option so that if the sheriff's office is not available to come in and do this portion of this meeting, that we have Zoom available. It's unnecessary why we don't. And there was an example given that we can do it when it suits the board. And so I would like to use that example to justify Zooming all of the meetings. Clearly, we have people that want to participate. And especially now, given that.
Is there a motion involved?
Well, I'm going to continue to explain something, especially
thank you.
since the current board is now putting public comment at the end. I think you'll have more people that probably want to stay in their home or at work and watch it versus sit through the entire meeting if they need to leave. So my motion is that the Board of County Commissioners authorize whenever and wherever possible the use of Zoom for meetings, to include 24-hour meetings and executive sessions, because executive sessions occurred last week. Executive session that occurred last week was of a ridiculously disruptive, cursing, yelling, slamming things. I had to walk out of the room. And doors from this,
Commissioners, let's focus. Let's,
Doors.
Is that how you do
hey,
that?
let's let her please.
No.
Let's let her
If we're
finish her
gonna
motion.
Sling shit.
Nope.
Let everybody sling it.
Commissioner Bradshaw, let's not. Let's,
Oh,
please.
see, your new name was asshole by her, right?
Commissioner,
Yeah, and we're
Commissioner,
retards.
I would like,
Yeah.
thank,
I see how that works.
Commissioner Williams, could
Yes,
you?
We would have had a
We are not.
recess at some point.
Shut up.
Hey, whoa, Commissioner, not appropriate. Commissioner Williams,
There's
could,
my representative,
could-
that guy represents my county.
Commissioner Williams, could you put your motion back?
Yeah, what is interesting is when it's flipped the other way, it's a recess. So what I will say instead is, this is the exhibit by which, this is the reason I'm requesting it. Exactly what just happened is the reason.
That I'm trying to let you make your motion and put it on the floor.
I'm not talking to anybody specific. What just happened is a demonstration of why we need to be able to do it by Zoom. That's it. So
Could you repeat your motion for the clerk so we have it on record? Commissioner Bradshaw, would you please allow Commissioner Williams to make her motion?
I wish she would.
thank you. Again, my motion is that we Zoom all meetings whenever and wherever possible to include executive sessions, because executive sessions have been worse than what you just saw.
I move to table that in perpetuity. Is there a second to that?
I would second that because.
There is a motion and a
lot of that is
second for
personnel,
tabling
private
into
information,
perpetuity.
Litigation, that is not going to be done.
There is no public discussion. Roll call vote for tabling.
You can't fix some stuff.
No,
Yes,
Yes.
the motion passes. Our next agendized item is, and I'm going to change this order around, is EMS Station 1 project and recreation picnic table expenses. I'm going to start with the recreation. They are both discussion items. I don't have to amend it, but thank you. So,
Because he's the chairman.
so
And they're his issues.
last week, there was a comment brought forth by a member of the public in regards to an amount of money that was spent on a picnic table. So in a $75 million budget, we had some oversight in regards to $102 for Doug Fir and $128.75 that was spent on angle iron. And I will be entering these into the agenda packet so that the members of the public are able to see how your Bonner County employees are actually serving to provide the residents of Bonner County access to recreation. This first picture is a picture of a broken slide that is at West Bonner. Is that correct? This is at West Bonner. And on the back side is a picnic table that has been damaged. And I will enter these into the record that will be scanned in so that people can see them. The second picture is a picture of a bench that was constructed for approximately a picnic table that was constructed for approximately $250. And this picnic table was welded in place where the previous one was broken. As some may recall, West Bonner Park has experienced a great amount of vandalism, to include feces being spread all over, which has then resulted in the facilities being closed. But what I really want to do is I want to greatly commend the efforts of our staff in building a picnic table for $250 and restoring the ability of our public to be able to recreate on our public lands. You could not pay, as was alleged, for a table this nice for $250. This is excellent work by our crew of employees. And as I have said, I do not engage in comments during public comment because I am not an expert on what all of the 460 employees of this county are doing. So what I choose to do is to go and get the information, and this information will be presented into the record so that people can see how department heads are providing the public safe access to be able to utilize our facilities. My second comment is in regards to the EMS Station 1, because there has been a number of statements that are made that, and this will also be entered in the public record so that the public can see. And here is a project, this will be entered, I understand that it's small, but so when people look in the public record, they can see, it's not currently attached yet, but it will be attached. And I want to talk about the project milestones, because there are allegations that there was not enough opportunity for public comment, and that there was no plan. Well, let me tell you, that is so far from the truth. It is disingenuous and disrespectful to the work that has been done, not only by previous boards of commissioners, and this actually encompasses multiple different boards, but it's disingenuous to the public trust and the responsibility that is associated with stewarding the taxpayer dollars. The project across the street that you are seeing is, first off, just in EMS Station 1 for public safety, of which there were 400 calls last month where EMS personnel went out to help Bonner County residents. And I don't even know how many calls the sheriff's office made in serving Bonner County residents, which is the business of Bonner County. The project started in 2017. The first workshop was held in 2020. That was 11/5 in 2020. In December of 2020, there was the first Board of County Commissioners meeting that was noticed and agendized, and public comment was available for the request for quotes. So you have 2020 November, you have December 2020. In July of 2021, there was a workshop number 2 where the public was able to participate. In October of 21, there was a parking agreement approved by the Board of County Commissioners that was agendized, and the public had an opportunity to see in open meeting the business of Bonner County in regards to that project. In January of 2022, workshop number 3 was held, conducted by facilities. In April of 2022, workshop number 4 was conducted that was properly noticed and agendized, and the public had an opportunity to participate. In June of 2022, workshop number 5 was conducted that was properly agendized and noticed, where the public had the opportunity to participate and observe. In January of 2023, project update workshop number 6 was properly noticed and agendized, where the public had the opportunity to participate. In May of 2023, the Board of County Commissioners approved and advertised the project that was properly noticed and agendized, where the public had an opportunity to participate and ask questions. And all of these agendized items, as required by law, are available to be accessed. In July of 2023, in a properly noticed, agendized, and meeting open to the public, the project was awarded. In August of 2023, in a properly noticed and agendized meeting, the Board of County Commissioners signed the contract. That was August 1st. On August 21st of 2023, the Board of County Commissioners, in a properly noticed and agendized meeting, held a budget enhancement approval. In October, the Board of County Commissioners had a DMV workshop, workshop number 7. In November of this year, workshop number 8 was held. So in total, for this project, properly noticed, agendized, and meetings held in open session, there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different opportunities going back to November of 2020. So for members of the public to imply that this project has not been done in compliance with law or with opportunities for the public to participate in this is inaccurate.
I think, Luke,
Mr. Kramer.
What asking is it on time and is it on budget? You did not answer that at all.
That's the next piece I would address, but thank you for bringing that, Mr. Kramer.
That's 7 meetings in 3 years.
That's 14 meetings. This,
Trying
Well, it's 14 and this will be a part of the packet. Now, I was just a teacher and a soldier. I don't have the same awareness of Gantt charts as some, but Commissioner Bradshaw was here for a majority of this, and this is a Gantt chart. I will try to get this, a smaller version, scanned in because this is too big. This is the current Gantt chart. It's small, and this is where the project is at. This Gantt chart is updated, and it is managed by a team. That team is the architect, the project manager, and those are on the private side. And then on the public side, there is our engineer, and there is also Teddy Lupton, who brings in decades of project management experience that are verifying all of the expenses, and this Gantt chart will be brought forward so that the public can see it. However, and because this is not my wheelhouse, I believe that a Gantt chart is a living document, and there are changes made as there are things like whether or we find out that there may be flaws in regards to some of you figure stuff out. For example, a small example, for the apron going into the EMS station, it was originally designed to be asphalt. This was noticed afterward, and a public employee said, wait a sec, we should make this concrete, because what that will do over the course of life, considering that we had 400 EMS calls last month, it is going to save the county long-term to replace the asphalt with concrete. And there was a change order that was submitted. I don't know the exact cost off the top of my head, but the point being is that change order is going to provide a more durable product so that we can provide public safety as statutorily obligated to the citizens of Bonner County. These documents will be made available, and if you have questions in regards to those documents, please contact the appropriate members of Bonner County that handle that, which is engineering, and it is Teddy Lupton in facilities. You can come, and I welcome the public asking questions on these matters, but I will tell you, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a construction manager. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your questions and I'm going to go speak to the people who are the professionals. That's why we hire department heads. And following that, I will come back to you like I did this week with that information. And I will provide this online, which will be in the meeting packet. Look at those documents, and if you have questions, please bring them back. But I try not to run my mouth before I say things that are inaccurate. And if there are questions, now in regards to the project is slightly behind the schedule because there have been some changes. For example, if you were to look out the window on your way out, you will notice that they decided to put the roof on first instead of pouring the concrete on the second floor. And what that does is it changed their project timelines. What it also does for us is it provides the men and women that are working on that project a greater degree of safety, and it will provide the ability that they might fall behind at this stage, but because they will be dry and safer, there will be less delays, better serving the taxpayer in the delivery of this product and this project, which is for the public safety of Bonner County. And in regards to that public safety, the employees that are over there at a facility that is filled with black mold that are out there saving your life, as you look at all of the people who drive too fast and are in the ditch, I'm doing everything I can to keep those people safe, also with the hopes that my tires and my brakes are good enough so that neither me nor any of you have to call them to save our bacon. So that is.
What about the budget portion of that? Are you on budget?
It's on track.
We are on track for the budget.
On track. What does that mean?
It means we are on budget, Mr. Kramer.
I think that this is a lot of information to bring forward, and I would say that when I asked for the quarterly project reviews, that would be reasonable. The original issue was not this, though. It was actually Teddy made the comment of no plan in place. And that was the reason to remove the DMV from that portion of the building. And so we need to make sure of we're connecting the two things. It wasn't a community member that said it. It was actually in the meeting. The people in charge said there wasn't a bigger plan, because at that point, the assessor commented, there is a plan for the DMV in that building, but her response was, there is not a bigger plan. And so that is what was used to actually pull that part of the project out of that building because of that comment. Not certain that the community said there is no plan. And I think that this is indicative of why we should do updates, because the follow-up questions of this are crucial to us feeling like the county is doing a good job. And I would encourage people to ask the board to actually reconsider doing quarterly project discussions with the necessary people in place, because it can make the community feel better about how we're spending your money and that you know what we're doing, because everyone will have more questions after that.
I gotta interrupt too.
No, you don't, Mr. Moore. This is not, this is,
Can you expound on that? Because Mr. Engelhardt is here. I want you to explain why you brought up the word black mold.
Mr. Moore, I'll actually answer that for you. That's a good question, but it's a terrible answer. The building, I don't know why that's funny, that our employees are actually, so the employees that are responsible to keep the men and women and the boys and girls of Bonner County safe in EMS Station 1, that the county expends approximately, it's around $10,000 a month to rent on a property that is not ours, has black mold in that building. And that is across from, that is my understanding. I am also not a mold engineer. I know if I find it in the refrigerator, I try to throw it away. But my understanding from speaking with Chief Lindsay is that there is mold in the building. And if you've been here long enough, you remember all of the different iterations of that motel. It used to be a motel, then it expanded about 14 times. And it's had a whole bunch of lives. And this particular journey of that building as EMS Station 1 is over. Because speaking for myself, putting employees that keep the public safe in a building where they reside 24 hours a day on 48-hour shifts is just not a good answer. That's just a bad answer.
So I appreciate you bringing up the high safety value of trying to stay away from mold. So hopefully Mr. Engelhardt is paying attention to what we're talking here. Mr. Bradshaw also.
Mr. Engelhardt has nothing to do with EMS Station 1, but
Black mold, as I'm talking about, the topic is black mold.
there are mics in the ceiling. We're gonna get there. It's only a discussion item on this one as I agendized it, but we are now going to get into the public comment section of the agenda. So Mr. Bradshaw, if you could hand me the.
I guess, can I ask for clarification? Because I just got confused. You're putting public comment in the middle of your agenda items, or are you allowing
Oh, I
people to
apologize. I have
ask
one
on
more.
your-
Thank you. I apologize.
And
You are correct.
Can you you
That's
said,
all I had for discussion. There is no public comment because I'm not putting a motion on the floor.
I know, but you went to do that part, and then there's executive session and then public comment, because you motioned to put public comment at the end.
No, he put his item 2 first, and he hasn't done his item 1 yet.
No, I'm talking about
Oh, yeah,
the
I see what you're
original
saying.
amendment. We don't have to reflexively disagree.
Oh, yeah.
You said you want to put public comment at the end of the agenda, and the end of the agenda is executive session.
My understanding, but I'll seek clarification. Was that before or after?
Before executive.
Before executive, that was my understanding.
That's not what
To the
you
end of
voted,
the
though.
public meeting.
That's your understanding now that I brought it to you, and you realize you want them before it, but you actually voted at the end. So what you have to do, since you passed that, is
That
actually,
would be the end of the public meeting.
but that's not what you said, end of the agenda.
Let's see if we can handle this like adults. I think we can address this. So, first off, in regards to my second item, on November 16th, during a public meeting, a comment was made by a member of this board that we aren't going to play ring around the retard. To say that that is offensive is an understatement, but that has become par for the course in some manner. And it's just beyond the pale. And while there are some members of this board who choose not to apologize for their comments, I will apologize to the public for that comment being made at one of our meetings. It was inappropriate then, it is inappropriate now, and it never should have been uttered. And so to the general public of Bonner County, I apologize for that comment on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners. And that's it. So
I would concur.
now, in regards to adopting the order of the agenda, as chairman, I would ask to go back to that first item and let's make a correction if necessary, so it can be on record in the public. And so I would ask
What
Commissioner-
what playbook are you guys using? Because that is actually not how it works.
So you don't want clarity on
you don't,
You guys voted to amend the agenda to place public comment at the end of the agenda, and you both passed that.
and I'm acknowledging that I think you're correct, because I don't think that was the intention of Commissioner Bradshaw, but I was going to ask him if that's okay.
But the votes don't go by what your intention is. It goes by what the motion is, not what your intention. So
you
that,
don't want to
so it's not, it is, so we don't have to play like I'm playing a game with you. You're following supposedly Robert rules. So how do you get to cure it? You don't get to cure that here. What you have to do is public comment after executive session and then change it, which is an example of why we probably should have done this for a future meeting, not right now.
Well, we're still in the midst of the meeting. This hasn't
You don't get to
occurred.
flip it, never mind.
I suppose
Just-
I wasn't sure if you were going to call me a name or if we were going to try to give the opportunity to speak. So Commissioner Bradshaw.
That's uncalled for.
Technology. Commissioner Bradshaw, was it your intent for public comment to be before or after executive session?
before the executive session, because that would be the end of the public part of the meeting.
Okay.
That's
So-
actually not
Rather than
true.
Decisions
It's
coming
not
out of
true.
executive session.
Okay, so
But the intent was to move
I am sure.
position prior to the executive session.
All right.
But
So-
I'm pausing you because what Commissioner Bradshaw said is wrong. You go into executive session, if a decision needs to be made, you have to pop out of executive and it becomes public. So what you said is not right, which I don't think you guys thought this
Well, I'm
through all
sorry
the way.
that
It
I don't
isn't, we
understand
don't
what
have
I
to
said.
feign anything. What you voted his statement was that's the end of public, and it's not the end of public. So what you voted was at the end of the agenda.
Well,
Maybe you guys should just do what you said and then figure out how to fix it for next week.
Okay, so now we will move into our public comment section. And our first public comment speaker is Miss Jennifer Kramer.
Jennifer Kramer for the record. So last week, in the discussion about quarterly budget meetings and the request to include Fair Board accounting, Mike Rosedale stated that most
Can I
of the
actually pause? Are you doing public comment and then district reports or?
Yes.
Okay.
Mike Rosedale stated that most of the Fair Board accounting is not available. He stated that he submitted public records requests for which the cost was to be around $40,000. Luke, you seemed surprised and asked, is the county paying for that? And Mike Rosedale responded it was the first time that a public records request had not been fulfilled. So it's unclear to me if Mike Rosedale filed this lawsuit against the Fair Board as a private citizen, or did he file it from his position as an elected official? If as a private citizen, he should be liable for any public records requests costs. If as an elected official, are the taxpayers liable? If so, are there any controls in place to limit such lawsuits and costs to the taxpayers? And Asia, last week, you asked for a legal opinion regarding the lawsuit from Mike Rosedale to the Fair Board. And I think you read some of that today, but.
I don't
anyway.
have the answer because there is a change.
Okay,
So
let me ask them, then I'll ask my questions. So then my questions are, will that opinion include clarity on how the suit was filed? And will it include further explanation of these public records requests and when the county, which is actually the taxpayers, when we are liable for the expense?
And so I did submit all of those questions to the attorney for review and response. And when we came to this, because I received actually the Holland and Hart contract yesterday, when I look at this, I have concerns. I don't know how the issue with respect to the money is addressed, and the prosecutor said he doesn't know if there is anything that could change, but agreed that this document should have come in a different setting. So the only thing I can do is submit it to the Attorney General, and if your questions are the same as mine, I am submitting that for review. Because when it came to the public records request portion of it, that was an action from, not to. And the stated purpose of Holland and Hart was not for that. And so the best answer is to let Attorney General provide a response to this. I asked very clear questions of the clerk to try to get answers. I am now just going to send it to the AG because that is where there's a question with the prosecutor's office of, was that different than what the original intent was? And that is still a question on the prosecutor's side. They are going to provide an opinion on that, but it would still probably need to go to the Attorney General.
Okay, thank you.
There is information from the prosecutor that was sent out that says that there was no agreement from the prosecutor to say, let's sue the fair, because that's suing ourselves. So that was not recommended by the prosecutor's office.
Thank you, Mr. Rosedale. I'm going to let the public make their comments, and then I will give you an opportunity to make a comment if you would so like. Ms. Lunsford.
Amy Lunsford for the record. So a lot of the items that were covered today in some of your guys's action items bring me back to the ICCO. So are some of the problems that we're having with staff and the hostile work environment, is that because some of these people still are giving a fealty to the sheriff's tampering and trying to undermine the board? Because with some of the records requests, I had seen that one of the people was HR, and I think it's kind of strange that they can't work under this current board and they want to be placed under a sect that was very loyal to the ICCO and is still showing loyalty to the sheriff in that group. So are they looking to seek protection from not being able to support their everyday jobs and functions because they're torn between working for all of the county and this board and working for the sheriff? My other question is the ICCO still active? Commissioner Williams, can you tell me, do you guys still meet at the sheriff's office with all the elected officials and some of their subordinates to this day?
No, I can't remember when the last meeting was with that particular group. And so when that was formed, that was, I believe it was that the Board of Commissioners agreed at that time that we needed that internal audit function, but it ended even before Prosecutor Marshall could draft the kind of like the mission statement of what it's for. And so there hasn't been any communication in terms of a meeting of a group.
Okay, so soon after primaries, and this was just primaries, I had noticed that you were brought into the ICCO fold before you were even an elected official to help the risk manager with that 303 audit, or I don't know exactly how it was worded, if it was an audit or what it was, on how to spend these ARPA funds.
No, that is not what, especially once you hit ARPA too, that's not right. That's not what I was brought in for. So sometimes when you build a committee, you need what's called a member at large, or you need a community person to sit on that. So at that particular time, I was asked, as well as Grant, who was the prior assessor, was asked to sit on that in that capacity. And it had nothing to do with ARPA spending at all. It was about internal controls.
And that was the 303. Because the whole ICO, as far as I can tell, Daryl Wheeler had made a statement in the Reader, and it says Sheriff Daryl Wheeler took the opportunity during public comment during the Bonner County Commissioner May 31st meeting to announce the formation of an audit committee to guide how the county will spend American Rescue Plan Act funds. Is that not ARPA?
That is, I don't know who wrote that statement, but that's not what it was. Clerk Rosedale was on that board as well. It was about internal audit controls. There wasn't a discussion of how to spend ARPA funds.
Okay, so I would.
Ms. Lunsford, time is up, but just so that would you like to see this agendized for next week?
Yes, please. With
I would
all
love
the
to do
elected
that.
Officials who
I
were a
can't,
part of that.
well, I can't order that, but I can agendize it. I will put it on there so that there will be an opportunity for public comment. All right, yeah, I know, thank you, Miss Fry. Thank you for your comments, but that is not the way that it works. Thank you, Miss Fry. 3 minutes is 3 minutes, and all right, our next our next public speaker is Mr. Dan Welly.
Good morning, Dan Willey for the record. A lot of people in this county have seen what's going on here and they're disheartened. It's not the way the county is supposed to operate. One of the items that affects a lot of these people is the Fair Board issue. And in looking at what's gone on, the Fair Board hasn't had an audit since 2014. That is not your guys' problem. I mean, you weren't in office in 2014. I don't know if Commissioner Bradshaw was in then or not. And the fact that you guys never had the opportunity to see that was statutory responsibility for you to make sure that it was done, I think it's your responsibility to make sure that now that audits go back to 2014 to see where the money has gone. There are people in here who are very drawn out because of the loss of a friend. I think those people need answers. They need to see where every penny of that money went, to see what caused the actions that happened. I have questions. I have read what has been out there about this, and I look at it and I see not all the questions have been answered. I'm not going to go into any kind of detail on it. From my experience, I have questions. So if anybody wants to ask me, you gentlemen, lady, what my questions are, I'm more than happy to answer you. But please answer those questions for these people. They all need it.
When I do district report, I actually will be asking that question of you when I give my update.
Thank you, Mr. Welly. Mr. Wood.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Ben Wood for the record. I am on the Fair Board, and very exciting today to finally announce we got our finances in the Daily Bee.
Oh, hold on.
Pretty awesome.
Well done, Mr. Wood.
Nope, not on me. So actually on the Fair Board, and it, not gonna lie, it's been a rough road. Fair Board we still got a long bumpy road to go, but we're going.
So do we.
So it's I wrote up a whole speech and then I read it and then it was like 9 minutes. So it's just like trying to hit the high points.
Mr. Wood, you can have the 9 minutes as a member of the Fair Board.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't know what everyone else will, but you can have it.
All right. So
can I ask you to lift that microphone up because you are taller than that microphone?
They'll pick him up as unidirectional.
If you'd like, you can stand over there too, at the podium, and then you can put your stuff down.
All right, I'll do that.
It's your choice, sir.
Get my fat butt back here behind this thing. Okay, so can you hear me, Asia?
Yes, I can. I just want it for the online people.
All right, so Daily Bee, finances in the Daily Beat this morning. That's a huge milestone for us.
Yes, it is.
Like I say, it has definitely been a rough road. So we're all going to look at this. Everybody, I hope you guys look at this and look through it well. There's some things in there that we'll have some questions on. I want to just kind of go through it just so everybody knows. There's kind of three main parts of our fair budget. We have the main fair, which includes the fair itself, and then non-fair items, facilities, rentals, and that kind of thing. So just so you'll know how to read that budget. We have a rodeo budget, so that's separate on there as well. And then we have a rodeo royalty budget as well. That's where we have generally it's always a young lady as our rodeo queen, and she travels around to different events in the Northwest, and she will, kind of just be representing Sandpoint Rodeo. It's a very good program. So wanted to kind of just give you guys an update, just so you, as you're reading it, have some questions. I mean, that's fine. And we're open to answering questions. Okay, some of the highlights on this, huge highlights. Close to $130,000 worth of donations and sponsorships from our community. That is huge. I can't give a big enough shout out to those guys. Without that support, the fair could not operate. That is amazing. And not just to mention that, we also give sponsorships out for services back. So things like electrical work or tree service or, gravel and dump truck time, things like that. We give sponsors out for that. That's not in here because there was no money traded, but those sponsors cannot be left out. I just want to clarify that too, that those guys are also huge to what we are doing there. Kind of moving past the financial stuff, the fair board is working on a facilities plan. This is going to take some time. The facility plan, it's a big facility, and so we're trying to do a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. 10 year might be a little bit too much because the community is growing. We don't really know exactly what's going to happen 10 years from now, but we got to keep that in mind. With this facility plan, we're coming up with identifying the strengths and the weaknesses of the facility, what we need to address right away, and what do we have maybe that's even underutilized? What else can we do with our facility? And those are all really good. How else can we better serve our community? It's exciting. We're putting together a sponsorship dinner to bring all of our sponsors together and give them a big thank you. That's exciting too. There's lots of events this winter, private events and different associations having their big banquets and stuff. A lot of those are held at the fairgrounds. It's a great big building. It's a good place to have that kind of stuff. We're working on 2024 fair stuff. That's fun. It's exciting. It's a lot of stuff. You wouldn't think that we have to already be doing it, but we've been doing it for a while. It's stuff that has to be going. The fairgrounds right now is a super busy place. There's all kinds of indoor activities, sports. The indoor arena has soccer in it. The Holly Barn has wrestling in it. The Holly Barn, the Sandpoint Legacy Wrestling, has taken the Holly Barn, covered in sheep poo, and then turned it into like a world-class wrestling room. It is amazing. It is so awesome in there. And so I mean that's exciting. That's the stuff that the fair's about right there. There's pickleball, there's volleyball, there's baseball, there's all kinds of stuff that, I mean, you can't even have an open door meeting in there hardly because it's so loud. It's great. It's awesome. Those are all good things that we're excited about. The fair's having its own struggles. Staffing, staffing, trying to, we're shorthanded. That's not unique to the fair. I don't think that's unique to the county. I'm a business owner and I know about trying to, keep employees. It's not easy. So, those are struggles that we're struggling with. It's not, we're getting through it, but we're probably not our most efficient because of it. And I'm sure that you guys all understand that. We're dealing with some bad publicity, as we're seeing, I'm not going to bring that up because we're yep. And things are working out. I mean, it's not that we're stuck in a rut. I do believe, like I say, the road's bumpy, but we're moving ahead. The fair's got some growing pains. I don't know if anybody has noticed that the community has grown substantially in the last handful of years. That just means that, our facility, the fairgrounds, is being used more. It is, and it's definitely putting some stress on the fairgrounds. And not in a bad way. But as you use something more, it depreciates faster. And so, we're just trying to, keep up with it and make sure, that things are well oiled. And, right now it seems like we are, we're trying to just, grease the squeaky wheels. But, we can't do that without, just keeping in mind that, there's a bigger picture out there. So, yeah, as far as, we're trying to kind of in our expansion, or I say expansion, in our plan, we're trying to balance the difference between maintenance of the facility that has to be done, and then also the expansion of trying to, what more does this growing community need? As it needs it, how can we provide it? And so these are things, but we can't. As a fair board and as a member, we're doing this very cautiously, because as we expand and the fair does get bigger, we have to just be very cautious. The BOCC has put together a fantastic fair board. I think our fair board is very well rounded. We pull in some really good opinions from different angles. As a business owner, I would love to have that board as helping me make decisions, because it's fantastic. We're not perfect, but we're definitely doing some good things. So that is a long-winded report. I appreciate you giving me more time than the 3 minutes, and we're not trying to withhold any information. It's just been a very sensitive time period.
Thank you.
Thank you. He is a public speaker, but those are the fair board. The fair board has their meeting on Monday at 5:30. 5:30. It is at the Bonner County Fairgrounds, and that they too give 3 minutes. They don't necessarily expand it, but that's okay. They run their meetings as they run their meetings. And it's on Monday, December 11th. It is at the Bonner County Fairgrounds in the meeting room. If you go into the main exhibit hall from the backside, there's the office, there's a small little meeting room, and they have their meeting where they conduct the business of the fair in accordance with 22-204 Idaho Code. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Dmitry Borisov.
Okay, he's not here for me.
No.
Good morning, commissioners. First, I would like to, Dmitry Borisov for the record. So first, I would like to thank Jay Gabel, Director of Planning, for addressing my concerns. I met with them after reading comprehensive plan and showing some inconsistencies. He addressed it. He let me know. So I want to thank him for doing it. So, and the second thing, I would like to ask you guys to consider Zooming special meetings, because with work and the short notice, 24-hour notice, it's really hard for us to attend it. And if you wouldn't mind considering creating like maybe email list, so technology can send an email to everybody saying, hey, here's the Zoom link, because before I tried to log in and I could not find the Zoom link. That would be also highly appreciated if you guys would consider it. And also, I think I would like to ask for some clarification, or ask maybe for some clarification, because when we talk about EMS Station 1, I think most people don't know it's a multi-use building. It's not just the EMS station. I think EMS Station 1 should have been built many, many years ago, and I'm all in support of it because I've been involved with EMS for many years. So if you next time give an update with the finances or whatever, so if you could say that's a multi-use building, just because, you know, there was a DMU was going to be put in there, and then maybe something else, because it makes it, I think, gives it a more clear picture, you know. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borisov. Is there any other member of the public that is present right now that would like to comment before I go online?
Dave Bowman for the record. I'd like to expand a little bit on what Dimitri just said. You all have a proclivity to announce special meetings and executive sessions 24 hours in a minute or two, which gets you through the minimum legal requirement. I would like to ask that you let people sign up to be on an email list. Certainly you have the technology to do that, that they just receive an email when there's going to be a special meeting, so they don't have to come out and get on the website every day looking if there's going to be one, you know, and the last time it was 23 hours and 55 minutes, you know, avoid all of that. Let people sign up to be on an email list. They can get the email that says there's going to be a special meeting on such a date, and they can choose to come or not to come. And if you threw Zoom in with that too, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Good idea.
Good idea.
I'll put it on the, well, actually, I won't put it on the agenda for next week. I'll do it the week after that.
Susan Bowman for the record. I would like to see you do less special meetings and bring that stuff into the business meetings. That's when people know they can come here. It is the business of the county. The special meetings aren't supposed to be for business of the county. They're supposed to be for emergencies and that sort of thing. So I would go a step further and just say, bring that stuff into the business meeting, which is the meeting of the people. It's when you spend our money. And so it is for us. So I would like to echo what Asia said earlier. This is our meeting. It is not your meeting. Okay, it's for us. And I see the smirk coming out again, and don't really like it. Don't really like it. But I'm talking right now. So, so the other thing that I would like to bring up is basically, I do believe we are experiencing tyranny. I think that it is shadowy what you guys are doing. So first of all, you obviously decided before you came here today that you were going to move public comment to the end. Okay, you had to have talked with each other to do that. You had to, because you already knew how you're going to vote. You came in here, you just voted on it, right? That's not the first time that's happened. You also did the same thing when you decided that Luke was going to be chair. Okay, that wasn't even on the agenda. And you just decided, you just came in and you just voted on it at a special meeting, okay? So folks, there's shadowy stuff going on here. It is, I believe, what I would call tyranny, because it is a lot of rules for thee, but not for me. We see it every single week where Asia doesn't get to talk. You change up the direction of everything. You don't even follow Robert's rules, but then you use Robert's rules as a cudgel when you want to, okay? And also the body language and stuff, like I saw you, Luke, like communicating with Mike in body language. It's just like a stop. Let's just be adults here, okay? Everybody should just be adults. And I would just say again, for the people that don't get to come to the meeting, I would say that you're really missing out. You should really come in here. And then last thing I want to say is about that apology to the county. for a word. It would be really nice if you apologized to all the people that came to that RV park meeting where you knew 6 weeks in advance there was a hearing, then you scheduled your conference to go to Boise, then you attended 3 Zoom meetings that week, but then the one hearing where at least 100 people wanted to come, had to drive an hour. What did you do? You got on there and you're just like, nah, I can't do it. I can't do it because I'm in Boise. Why won't you apologize to the people for that? That's the people's business, and I think you should apologize for it.
Thank you for your comments, Mrs. Bowman. Mr. Kramer.
Rick Kramer for the record. So I'd like to follow up on what Ms. Bowman just said. And I would like you to apologize if you're going to apologize for what she said. And I don't condone what she said, but if you're going to apologize for that, then why don't you apologize for all of the comments that he's made, calling us bacteria, and the way he's acted, you know, like in the parking lot with Spencer, or the things he said to Prosecutor Marshall. The list just goes on. I don't hear you apologizing for him. It's a very one-way street with you.
Ask me to apologize.
I have asked you to apologize and you have not.
Please let him make his comments, sir.
The other thing I have is I would like to ask that it be an agenda item. I would like legal to be present in every one of these meetings because there's always something that happens in these meetings that has to be taken to legal. And I would like that to be adjudicated while the meeting's going on, not a week later.
Part of the problem is the way this board behaves towards legal, and they are online watching what happens. And so I intentionally brought their forms because of the way this board communicates. They ask us for a form, but they're actually sending us very detailed responses to questions asked. And so I would say that if the public has questions that you want addressed, that's part of what this meeting is for, so that we submit that for an official response from legal. Because part of the problem with these meetings is one day the board says we like legal, the other day we don't like legal. So who's going to come to that meeting when their case, it's not that legal, this is not their job. You know, that if you imagine we should want to speak with legal the least amount possible and just do the business of the county. They're supposed to be working on cases that impact all of us. But this board has created so much dysfunction that the presence of legal is desirable. But if they were here for all of this, they're actually not working the cases that get assigned to them. And we don't want to hire, we get another attorney to address the fact that someone has to be over here. There's a problem with the board and communication.
No, I clearly understand
and
that.
the number of times that this board has said, conflict of interest, Bill, conflict of interest, Scott, I'm going to report you to the bar. We're not making it. And I say we because it's the board. We're not making it so that somebody wants to come to these meetings. And we've got to address the human resource aspect. Those are employees. They don't want to sit in an open public meeting to be berated by a board of commissioners. That's what needs to get fixed. I do understand people want legal to give responses like did you do your agenda correctly? But also the problem, and both Bill and Lewis have said this, it's only as good as if they ask the question and they listen to the answer. And we have historically on this board, coming up on a year, rarely listened to, as a board, the recommendations of council. So from a taxpayer perspective, where is their time best suited? Work in the cases that will keep coming, or sit in here saying, Luke, don't change the agenda. You shouldn't do that this time, and then not get listened to. They're going to be across the street. We have to fix it. And it starts with this board has to fix the go around all these other people, because it goes around prosecutor, it goes around HR.
Okay.
I hear it. And I think if you guys have questions, I'm definitely willing to submit questions, but we've created a problem for their office. And I would encourage people to hold the board accountable, because we can't afford for these attorneys to quit. And who would want to work on the prosecutor's office? We cannot afford to lose people because of this authoritarian meeting to order thing that's now happening. It doesn't work. For professional, educated people, they don't want to be treated that way.
All right, and Mr. Kramer, I'm going to take a moment to respond to your query. So when Commissioner Williams called me an asshole, that is perfectly legal. because that's freedom of speech. However, when Commissioner Williams in a public meeting uttered the phrase, "Let's not play ring around the retard," the difference is federal law, and I will read from you compliance policies. And that is, Bonner County's policy is to comply with all applicable federal, state, and local statutes, regulations, ordinances, and policies regarding employment. This includes, but is not limited to, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the American with Disabilities Act, as amended by the ADA amendments of 2008. So one is law and one is freedom of speech,
So here
but
we go, Lou. Did she call you that name in a public forum?
So this is what
Yeah.
happened.
What was the public?
This is what happened. We were in a meeting and the two of them were playing games of, I want to be Asia's supervisor. And they were going back and forth and I made the comment, poor choice of words, but to act as if that was addressed towards a community member or anything, it wasn't. And I agree it was a poor choice and that's why I started it this way. But for the level at which you want to come up and talk about that, there's a host of things, because I'm pretty sure threatening to shoot somebody hits somewhere in civil rights. You shouldn't do that. But that's not what you're advocating. So let's not pretend that that's real, because if we think it's real.
It's a double standard. You want to come back at me with what she said, but you never address what he has said or done over and over and over again. Not once.
the allegation that has
Just
been
did it
made.
again.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer. Go ahead, ma'am.
Monica Gunner for the record. First off, Ben, thank you. What I have said every time up here about the Fair Board, they're wonderful, wonderful people. They deserve all our support. They do not deserve what they have been accused of and everything else. So Ben, thank you for your rendition of what's happening at the fairground. And I also wonder, I got a call from a Fair Board member last week and said, why do the commissioners want to replace the entire Fair Board? So that was asked from me by a Fair Board member just last week. So that's curious, is they're getting this fairgrounds going, they're doing a fabulous job, and the rumor has it that you two want to replace the entire Fair Board. I just don't get it. So employers, well, I don't know if it's rumors, Steve, you never tell the truth there. So employees right now from upstairs have also contacted me at a function we had out in Sagal, and they totally told me what Asia said, how they're afraid to say anything and do anything upstairs because of repercussions that can happen. And this came from an employee upstairs. I won't say his or her name. This distension has to stop. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. And it's true what these guys said. Everything Asia brings up, everything Asia wants to do, she works hard trying to find things to get this community to do and change and build, and you two put her down every single time. One thing, again, at the start of all these meetings, you say no getting up here and saying nasty things, but you let somebody get up here, I think it was 3 weeks ago, talk about Asia and talk about her tax problems with smirks on your face the whole time all these people were coming up. And there's about 8 of them that are doing this. Steve, you are doing the same thing. And I never thought I'd say this, but you worked for my family. I won't even say the business, but you probably all know, for years, and we had to garnish your wages because you refused to pay taxes. None of that came up. No, that's not wrong. It's absolutely not wrong.
Please let her make her comments, Commissioner Bradshaw.
They were garnishing your wages, and the way you were treating Asia that day, I thought, I gotta say something, because it's everything against Asia, but you two can do anything you want and get away with it. And Asia, 100 times, I'm saying it again, thank you for what you're doing for this community. You two need to get out and do something for this community.
Thank you for your comments. Go ahead.
Christine Logue for the record. I have a couple things that
Step closer to the mic.
Planning on, not planning on speaking on, but a lot of things come up through the meeting. So maybe there is a bonus to having it put towards the end of the meeting. So I do agree with the Zoom thing being kept. It needs to be kept. It's and open just as we would be coming all the way up here, just coming up here, I have a little beater with a heater. I was hydroplaning several times coming up here, so it was quite an exciting drive. Not to mention the fog and rain and all the other things. So in light of the weather conditions being inclement, I would ask that you continue with the Zoom, please. One thing I did have to say, or did have questions of Omot, were the picnic table, as nice as it certainly is. My question is, what were the man hours for that? And if that's something, I know you don't have that information on you, but as a question, wondering also what that would be for man hours to construct that wonderful picnic table.
Part of the job.
Correct.
Well, please let
But
Ms.
we
Allen
did
speak.
we did get the materials cost, but it did not reflect the cost of man hours. Let's see. I did have a comment about the RV park that was proposed in Blanchard, Idaho, not the one up here in Sandpoint. I did have some concerns that seemed to be overlooked, and I actually experienced something just the other day as I was driving north on 41, coming out of Spirit Lake, and the person in front of me slammed on their brakes because the person in front of them slammed on their brakes to make that right-hand turn right there at Clagstone. And it is a huge increase of traffic, and I can't even envision it with the potential of having 40 more persons driving to and from that specific road. There's a guardrail right there. There's really nowhere to go. It will create a really big issue. Let's see here. I don't have much time left. The EMS meetings that were held. Do you have locations as to where those specific meetings for those dates were located at? I'd like to have that information. And the Fair Board, that I'm really happy to hear that they've come forward with some of the information. It seemed premature to bring out a lawsuit. And were the monies coming from our county monies to sue, or was that, how does that all work? I know that's a lot of questions, but those are my questions.
This is, so that is the director of our Waterways and Parks Department, so that you can email him to get the answers on the hours of personnel that are available. Ms. Kramer, you have already made public comment, and there are other members of the public, and no, I am not going to give you more time to speak. I'm sorry, sir, but you are kind of a member of the public, but I am not going to provide you this opportunity, Clerk Rosedale, until after the public has had their opportunity to speak, and then I will give you an opportunity. Ms. Crawford, please make your.
Donna Plant.
Oh, pardon me. Ms.
First
Plant,
of all,
I apologize.
No, that's okay. First of all, I want to say thank you that we have Zoom, because I really feel the reason we have Zoom is because you kept pursuing that. I also want to appreciate Luke for when it's not making the right sound and we can't hear people, for Luke to continue to get that back on, maybe take a break so we can get Zoom back on. I really would appreciate if you have a quick 24-hour notice to please put it on Zoom. That'd be really appreciated. Also, when we're talking about liability, I really worry about someone like you calling somebody that they perjured themselves when you said that you shot, we're going to shoot her. I really feel that shouldn't have been. Who takes liability if somebody sues us because of a comment like that? So I would ask you, please be careful what you say when you're in a public meeting. That was an appropriate place. If you want to call somebody a liar, call them a liar. But saying it in a public meeting that somebody perjured themselves is absolutely a liability that I don't know who would pay for that lawsuit, but I'm really tired of lawsuits having to come against the county and then us having to pay somebody to defend the county. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I apologize for calling you the wrong human. Sir?
I have to wait.
You have to wait. He's a human, but he's not really a full member of the public. He's a volunteer to get questions and queries. Go ahead.
Roger Sparling for the record. I want to go back to the Human Resources Department. It was about a month ago, 5 weeks ago at the meeting, when you called a recess, I took you outside to talk about why do you want the Human Resource Department back under the commissioners. And you said, well, that's where it's always been. It's belonged there. You said the reason it was taken away was because of the past commissioners' disagreements,
Correct.
right? Okay, now, here's my challenge. Why did the two of you then vote to put it back under you? Why didn't you let in our prosecutor Marshall? Because I believe, and so does most of our public believe, it's a conflict of interest for you as a board to be over the Human Resources Department, because you control everything that happens to them, everything that happens to us through their department. Yeah, you do, Luke. That's a conflict of interest. Put it back under Prosecutor Marshall, where the three of you don't have any say in what an employee of the Human Resources Department can say and not say. They don't have to fear for their job or something that you don't like. It's been pretty obvious to the whole county. So that's my point is, did you guys, I'm sorry, did the two of you just vote to have it back under you because you wanted control? That's my point.
Thank you, Mr. Sparling. Is there any other members of the public before I go? Mr. Moore.
Well, the one sister was saying here, there are some.
Moore, I know who you
I'm
are,
sorry,
but-
Kevin Moore for the record. I'm
Thank you,
sorry.
sir.
Thank you for reminding me. The one lady was talking about, might be some benefits to having this at the end as per being able to respond to a bunch of stuff that's been said. But there's pros and cons to all these things. And so I try to be in my life, in the times that I'm living right now, to be as apolitical as I can. And so we have people up here that are Republicans, whatever, but there's a right and left or whatever in any of these areas or whatever, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, there's right and left. And so, so hopefully we're trying to do what's good for the community, whatever, no matter which way you lean in your politicalization of making decisions. And so, for instance, Mr. Fairboard here. I'm trying to turn my page around here. Mr. Woods, I'm sorry. Mr. Wood? Wood or Woods?
Wood, board.
Okay,
no.
yeah. And so it's interesting to me, a couple of things or whatever, talk about the Fair Board. And so how many people on the Fair Board now are previously board members and how many are new in the last year or so? And so it's interesting, how maybe the people that have been on the board for a while, hopefully numerous years, whatever, have a view of how the finances were steadily solidified or documented, I guess I should say. And so as he mentioned about they get donations of $130,000 a year, donations. And it's like, so I'm guessing that's probably typical from years previous. That's probably a typical number. So to me, that's a pretty big number, let alone the amount of monies that come in for all the different procedures that go on there. So I'm guessing the Fair Board, they must have to be on top of $1 million a year or something for their overall budgeting of what comes in and all. I'm just guessing off the top of my head if there's 130,000 donations being made. And so hopefully we're all going forward now being more documenting all the finances. It's like you guys were talking about earlier about the $5,000 credit card. It's like, well, it seems to me it's like anybody that does any purchasing, you're going to get a receipt. If you pay for gas by cash, you're going to ask for a receipt so that you can get reimbursed. And so some of these things, whatever, seem a little innocuous or whatever as per how things get lost in the ozone. And then I'll end whatever here as per black mold, and I'm glad you brought that up because the EMS station, we don't want our fellow peer group citizens to be harmed by having to live in a situation where black mold or mold has come into their presence. And so as I dialogue with Mr. Engelhardt here later today, hopefully, we can all be on board about how water scenarios or whatever brings black mold to our fore.
All right.
Mr. Moore, I will place the question on the credit card on the, not this coming agenda, but the next one, to address the auditing of some expenditures not occurring.
And hope you'll be attuned to bringing something up about black mold or whatever too, whether it's EMS or fellow citizens.
Okay.
All right. It is 11:04. I am going to close the in-person public comments. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we're going to come back for the remainder of public comments and our commissioner reports.
Well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 11:10. Thank you for that brief pause in our meeting. And now we are going to proceed to the members of the public that are online, and I will ask the people that are out and about to state your name for the record, and we're going to start with Ms. Diwali.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sherry Diwali for the record. I only have two topics that I would like to either ask a question or comment on. The first would be on Zoom. And I'd like to reiterate that many people cannot attend in person. That number increases in the winter due to hazardous driving conditions. All meetings are important, as I'm sure you will agree. Therefore, I would like to include my request to the many we've already heard to make all meetings available to the public via Zoom. That includes all special meetings, etc. My second comment would be in reference to Luke's comment on the public apology. If we are referencing freedom of speech and what is legal and what is not, when a commissioner discusses in a public meeting a person who is an employee or is a whistleblower protected under whistleblower laws, is it legal and or freedom of speech to call that person a liar, or should that require an apology? And if you would like to comment to that, that'd be appreciated, but I'm done.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Diwali. Ms. Welly.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Asia, I just want to agree with Mr. Kramer and disagree with you with respect to the prosecutor's office. Perhaps if there was some consistency when public comments are allowed, that at least they could be there during those times, because we'd rather hear from legal, and I think we have a right to, in real time. And clearly, there are a lot of issues that require some legal opinion. Asia, I couldn't agree with you more with your proposal that HR go back to the prosecutor, as there's a conflict of interest as it exists today. Commissioner Bradshaw screaming profanity in a meeting and causing people to come out of their offices, as I heard from an employee, absolutely constitutes a hostile work environment. And that is an HR matter. Also, Commissioner Williams, there's an appearance of corruption with $20,000 here, $5,000 there, and a clerk's office who's controlled by an entity that we're not allowed to know about, all of which is worthy of having another commissioner chat with the prosecutor again to address public questions and potential remedies for that. I'm formally requesting that you add him back to your very beneficial chat meetings. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question, Mrs. Welly. If and maybe to everybody, if the prosecutor would be on Zoom instead of having to physically come over, would that be so? Yes. I will reach out to the prosecutor's office and see if they would be available to have someone on Zoom if we can't meet in the middle. What I do know is they're not going to be able to give legal opinions in real time on some issues. Like the meeting thing is kind of pretty easy, but something that's in depth, they are going to not give a response on. But I can ask them what is the option of doing a Zoom to be online and visible on Zoom, and see what we get with that. I definitely will do that. And then I'll get feedback. And I do think I can reach out to prosecutor and maybe even Bill specifically, because Bill is the attorney that works with the board itself, and maybe he can participate with a commissioner chat.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Kramer.
Yes, hello, Brandon Kramer for the record. I have a few things that I'd like to address here. The first one is, during last week's meeting, there was a item that was tabled so that it could get legal review, and that was specifically around archiving the public records requests on the Bonner County website. I want to know if anybody sent a form to the prosecutor's office for that review.
The commissioner who said that they would do that should provide that answer. I think I'm the one who raised it on your behalf to archive online.
Correct. Commissioner Omont, did you submit that form to legal?
Go ahead and finish your comments and I'll determine whether I will respond, but I'm just going to tell you now I'm not. So, but thank you.
Mr. Kramer, I'll submit the request. Can you state it again?
I would like the form to be submitted to legal for reviewing, I don't know, the legality, I guess, of making public information public. And I'd like to reserve my time, if I could, for me waiting for Commissioner Omont to sit there in silence and waste it. The other items, Commissioner Omont, I raised up the picnic table last week, not because it's $200, but because if you and the other commissioners can't be entrusted or faithful with the little things, you certainly cannot be trusted or be faithful with the large things. That's the point of that. And the total cost, which another woman raised up, is about the labor. There's a total cost there where that individual, whoever built that, could have been doing something else with their time that's more beneficial to the county. So, and in regards to you thinking that it's super high quality, you stated yourself you're not an expert in construction. You state regularly that you're not an expert in anything, yet then profess expert opinions in the same breath. In that regards, the EMS station and the criticism about the lack of plans, the example you gave Commissioner Omont regarding the asphalt versus concrete change order is a perfect example of where the appropriate individuals were not engaged as part of the planning and execution of that project. That's something that should have been known up front in regards to the required use cases of that facility, like the size and frequency, the size of the vehicles and the frequency of their trips. So to insinuate that having a large number of public forums or workshops is commensurate with a quality planned project is a logical fallacy. It's just not true. And finally, the putting HR under you guys is a big problem, especially where Bradshaw accuses staff members of being liars and perjuring themselves, to when he says profane things to them in meetings, as we learned about in this discussion here today. He is clearly incapable of handling HR related matters when it comes to the staff. And he is in fact a liability in his actions. And that's only the things that we're obviously privy to as an outcome of these meetings. That's not all the things we're not aware of. And Bradshaw, you stated that you never threatened to kill Commissioner Williams, and I want to know why your defense in the hearing with the judge where that protection order was granted never defended you in such a way. The only defense that you tried to present in that meeting—
Mr. Kramer, I have given you 30 extra seconds and your time has expired. Technology, please mute his microphone. Thank you very much. Mr. Bradshaw, if you would like, you may respond.
I would like to know—
technology, could you please— Thank you very much.
Why his only defense was—
All right.
In answer to that question, I was advised by my attorney not to speak at that hearing. I took the advice of my attorney. For better or worse, I followed his directions. Did I ever make the statement? No, I did not. I don't give a crap whether you believe or not, Dave. I'm glad you weren't a jury, okay? You're based it on nothing but hearsay, and that's exactly what it was. Miss Williams has never heard me threaten her. Have we got mad and hollered at each other? Yes. Have you got mad and hollered at each other? Yes, you have. Do you all get angry and lose your temper sometimes? Yes, you do. But I have never threatened this lady. I will never threaten that lady. If somebody was to physically threaten her, I would stand in the way.
You literally made a phone call after. You literally made a phone call after. I am tired of sitting in here while you make up statements because you didn't call the Lewis Marshal and say, holy crap, I didn't mean it, or I didn't say that. You said someone should have taken care of me before. So don't sit up here and make statements about a restraining order. Your best answer is to do what your attorney said and say nothing in this venue. You could have defended yourself.
Well,
but don't sit here. Don't sit here and keep bringing it up. I am
I
not,
apologize for letting the public, no, I don't. The public is entitled to give their public comments regardless of what Commissioner Luke Ahmet says. I don't coordinate with, thank you, all right.
that is how that's part of the way this meeting gets run is,
I gave
it
him
is
an
why
opportunity.
Human Resources shouldn't be under us, because he allowed it to, it's constant to give a defense of something that is not liked. But when it is something on the other side, we take a recess. And I'm tired of the very clear distinction between the two of you versus the people, because I am not the one you're fighting with. It's the people that you're fighting with.
We're tired of it too.
Mr. Kramer,
if
with
we can-
respect to your comment about the picnic table, Pete Hughes's team works in this period of the season to actually repair things, and it does come out to be more cost effective because they are able to afford better supplies and build that. So it is accurate that they use man hours to also do the build, but there's a reason they do that.
Yes, we did. Mr. Hutchings.
Wait, who kicked him out? You can't
I did
kick
as the
someone out.
chairman. No, he's not kicked out, but we had him muted.
He was kicked out.
No.
Oh, hey, technology, I don't want him kicked out.
You
I just
can't.
want him to be muted. He's there. There he is. All right. So, Mr. Hutchings, please proceed with your public comments.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is Spencer Hutchings. I don't know how I could get through my Tuesday mornings without this dose of excitement. I mean, I'm kind of curious if and when the Idaho.
Please start the timer, technology. Go ahead, Mr. Spencer.
It's Hutchings. It's not Mr. Spencer. Spencer's my first name.
I apologize, Mr. Hutchings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm curious when the state attorney general is just going to shut this clown show down. That's just a curiosity. I hope they're watching. I really do. And, I'm really glad that the current fair board has got their act together. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And it sounds like Bonner County is going to have nothing but good results from these folks going forward. I am, though, quite concerned about what happened in the past. And it seems to me like there's a little bit of an effort to make sure nobody finds out what happened in the past with the lack of available records. It seems like, I'm going to be shocked. I'll be impressed and happy if suddenly in the years going forward, the fair has money to make improvements that seem to have been put off for years and years because the fair never had money. That's going to be real curiosity for me. Do we suddenly have money to fix things that didn't get fixed in the last 10 years because for some reason in the last 10 years, the money just wasn't there. So, having said that, have we made any progress, Ms. Williams, have we made any progress finding out about any bank account information for the fair?
We have, and I will address that in my commissioner report because that's what I was hoping to be able to do at the beginning. I have been working on the issues and concerns.
Okay, that's awesome. And I also, just as a general comment to everybody, the commissioners and the public at large, I love when people pick particular words to have a little, pearl clutching moment about, as a Marine, as a guy who's heard every word that's possibly, been able to been said by a human being, I never find these things offensive. I don't care what it is. I mean, you can call me anything, call my mother, my brother, anybody, anything. It doesn't matter. It's just words. And as a society and as adults, we really should get past these little, people having a fit over somebody saying a particular word. Doesn't bother me. I think the rest of you ought to grow up and move past it, understanding the meaning of what the people are saying, and don't concentrate on one silly word or another. Thank you for the time to make these comments.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchings. Ms. Ripley. Ms. Cara Ripley, do you have comments to be made to the Board of County Commissioners? And if I butchered your name, I apologize. I don't know if it's Cara or Kara. You would need to unmute, ma'am. All right, going once. Oh, ma'am, are you there? Twice. All right, we are closing public comment for today, but Clerk Rosedale has come back, and I am going to give Clerk Rosedale an opportunity Yes, Mr. Rosedale, if you would like.
Thank you. Couple of things. This gentleman talked about the audits in the fair since 2013. As far as I know, the Fair Board has not been audited since 2000. I know that they've had people visit them, but they've never been incorporated into Bonner County's official audit. As to the outside activities, we always have audited the levied funds, the funds that run through the county, that my office. But as far as I know, we've never actually incorporated the activities. As far as my record request, that was in my official capacity to have my business email, my Bonner County email address. And Mr. Wood and Jody, we've been working together, and kudos to you for getting that done. We have a bright future. Somebody has a vested interest in trying to stick a thorn between us. My office doesn't want that. I don't think your office wants that. I think we want to work great together. I don't know why stuff is being brought up all the time, but we very much want to work with you. So there's no angst there at all. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Clerk Rosedale. All right. And now we will go into Commissioner's report. And on the agenda, it did have the order in 1, 2, 3. However, last week went 3, 1, 2. This week is going to go in the order of 2, 3, 1. So, Commissioner Williams, you are up first this week.
So one of the things that should change is that it actually just should be agendized, the order that we're going to put it in, instead of done in that meeting. So with respect to Commissioner Chats, Area of Agency on Aging is going to be present on January 23rd. They're going to bring a panel to help discuss. I'm actually going to reach out to a lot of the community service centers around our area so that they come to listen and ask questions, because a lot has changed. One of the things that is being rumored is that as we look to federal funds, that attaching some ideology that is not popular in Bonner County, we need to be paying attention, because they're going to start attaching some of those things to federal funding. And so understanding these departments will be even more critical for us. So I have to thank Liz Hutchison on that. She was eager to have her team come and participate. I know that everybody wants Army Corps of Engineers for our wetlands, so that's unique. I'm in the process of getting them to secure a date. Our local office said I have to ask Seattle for them to be able to come and do it. I have asked. We are moving forward. They emailed this morning too. I just don't have the exact date, as well as Idaho Department of Water Resources. They are picking a date of what's available. So we are going to be moving forward with Commissioner Chats starting not January 2nd, but the following, because it's too close to the holiday. I will ask for another one with prosecutor's office to come to have discussions. I would like the community to, when you hear a comment that says we're going to table or you're going to put it in a workshop, that the community needs to follow up with the commissioner who did that. For example, I requested we have someone to manage our property. It is snowing. We're not managing our property. We were told that there was a workshop needed. There was a reminder at the last meeting, when's the workshop? If we're going to be saying things, we either need to do it or stop using it as an excuse for not making the decision. We cannot expect somebody that's an employee and it's not part of their job to go out and manage the number of county properties that we have. And so with that, I am respectfully requesting that Commissioner Ahmet and Bradshaw complete their workshop so that we can assign somebody to be in charge of our properties. We've already entered into the winter area. So I'm kind of pushing that to the community to give their feedback on it. I am not, now that we've switched the way the agenda is going to go, I will not be available on Tuesday. I had originally thought because it's first, but I'm out of the office from the 12th to the 18th. I will participate remotely. However, at the time that it gets switched to, I will not be able to participate remotely. So that's unfortunate. So I won't give a District 2 report, but I am working on those things. If you are running for election or you know someone who's, I'm going to run, but I'm not going to say anything. My valley, so I'm Spirit Valley Precinct Committee person. Our valley feels like the reason they're not voting in high numbers, because we were 35% at the last race, is because the lack of a voter guide information. And yes, we can all say, yes, you can go and find it. But the reality is people come from places where they produce those guides. And so I'm going to put together a voter guide. And I've reached out to some of the people that are going to be on the ballot. I'm not doing it for the entire district. That's way too much for one person. But for Spirit Valley, I'm going to do it so that we can identify people. I do have the town hall scheduled. So this year we did town hall after legislative session. I brought all of the elected and then a lot of kind of service providers. This one, I'm going to just do all elected, but if you're running, you're going to take up the space from the service providers with the exception of a couple that are important to the Blanchard area. So if you know somebody, ask them to email the information if they want to have say in how it's presented. Otherwise, I'm going to give a comment about the person running, which some may not want that. You might want to say it your own kind of way. So some people have responded back and told me they're going to get me the information to put the pamphlet out. I'm given a deadline of January 31st because I need to get it all printed because I want it in hand before we do the town hall. Because I want to look to see if that is something that will increase the number of people voting, then we need to go back to Central Committee and say we need to do something different because what we're doing isn't getting people to the polls. So I'm hopeful that people will actively submit the information to me and participate, and also to come to the town hall. Our region of Spirit Valley, we are a come out one time. We're going to do one thing and then we're going to vote. We packed the hall when we did our town hall. We were out into the parking lot. And I say that because on this one, I have to limit the people to Spirit Valley because it's specific to them this time because of voting. And I'm trying to cater to my precinct in that regard. There are people that will come, but I will tell you, I think the biggest critique I got on the last town hall was, why does that person have a chair? They're not from our area. So I'm going to try to actually see if I can do it by Zoom for people that are not in Spirit Valley area, but leave the in-person to Spirit Valley, because I want to be able to look at the information the clerk's office will bring and say, this increased our voters. And so I'm hopeful that that will work. With respect to auditing and the fair and questions on budget, I am going to say that we have a really good fair board. They're working a lot. We have a lot of negative press that has swirled, but it has not stopped them from working. At the last discussion, I said that I wanted to have quarterly budget reviews and quarterly project reviews. But specifically with budgets, we as a community should know more in real time. And so I am going to meet with the fair. And so I say that because you have a lot of questions out here. They're available and willing to answer. Sometimes it's presentation, sometimes it's just not us recognizing that they are volunteers. So I'm going to stay behind this meeting and say, what are your questions? Because when I meet with them, I'm confident that they will answer questions. But I also want to work on budget stuff because they are doing everything that they can to come into compliance. The questions about what happened before are very valid questions. But we also have to remember that this board is not, it's not just a board issue. We had a commissioner over Fair Board as well, and we don't know what happened. So we need to, I encourage people to give a little bit of a pass on some of the negativity towards the board itself, because if you consider what he presented to you today, or not ever having seen that before, that is a Herculean task. And we can start now by working together. I know there are certain people that have specific questions, but I want to be able to bring those to the fair and then be able to report back on the following commissioner meeting of what their response is, because they're not non-responsive. I encourage this board to discontinue sending aggressive emails towards the board or towards the Fair Board. It doesn't get us where we need to go. And all of what he described, we should say we're getting the feeling of fair back. We should all be positive about that. We can't be positive if we just keep sprinkling negativity on people that it doesn't belong on. And I will tell you, it does not belong on the Fair Board. And it doesn't do us any good. And it's not right for us to go through and fight everybody on the Fair Board because somebody doesn't like a press release. That's not what we should be doing. It's our community. We need to work together on it. But I also agree that questions should be answered. I will be the conduit of that information, and I will report back. I said at one point I was going to do reviews. And so I'm going to change it since it's now at the end, because that's different. But I'm doing weekend reviews to go over all the things that we did as the board that we did on 24 hours. I did a spot where I just did legal opinions to tell you guys the answers. Some people say they don't like that they don't get the answers. Your wife should have given you a coffee she took too. I saw that look on your face. Legal opinions so that you guys get the answers. When there is a legal opinion that should be shared so you understand the content and the level of work that Bill Wilson or Lewis Marshall are putting in, I want that to be visible, because too much I'm hearing from this board that our prosecutor isn't doing anything, and that's not appropriate. You imagine answering our questions as quickly as we send them. I sent them like 6 in one time because I was irritated. That's a lot, and they actually are giving us comprehensive responses. The other thing that I'm going to do is, this all was legal opinions because we had a lot. So just giving you what that reference was. But on the back, I'm going to do an issue that's unresolved. So property managed was unresolved and it didn't come back. We have to address this workshop issue, so I'm putting that there too. Litigation and risk is kind of where I'm moving my next issue towards. We need to start mitigating litigation, and human resources is the leakage in our budget. We are paying for mismanagement for no reason. We don't need to. If anything, this meeting showed why we could use the break of not having to be over this. We're not really impacting that in a positive manner, and we're not attracting people. Someone asked me a question about third-party attorneys, and the reason that's very short is because I'm requesting a list of everybody, because when I look at some of the rates of pay and why we're using them, it bears some answers. Because some people, when they see a firm, they want to know the back history of the firm. And some people care about kind of the overall vision of the firm. And if we're paying them, is that in line with what Bonner County wants? And so I'm trying to compile that list so that we can explain it, so that if we're going to pay somebody, for example, there's an airline attorney that is in California. I think it's like $600, but we know the answer to why we have to pay the $600. And I think that's what the community is looking for. Why are we paying, and what can the prosecutor's office manage? What is the necessity of using our money outside of what we're already paying as taxpayers? So I've got to figure out the right way to do this, which is why I didn't hand it out, because it was at the end. Yes. But that will be part of kind of my updates. If you have questions to make my discussions a little bit shorter, then I can email those things out to you. So any questions from Commissioner Williams regarding my report? Mr. Hutchins.
Hi. Hey, I was wondering, I had somebody send this to me. It's a letter dated November 15th, 2023 from Veronica Dixon to Luke Omont. And in this letter, it says, have you seen this letter? You know what I'm talking about? Something about public records requests?
I'm not sure until you read it.
Okay, so one of the things it asks in here is Luke apparently asked for copies of all certified budgets. And in this letter, it says, please see the enclosed records. So I'm not sure if the enclosed records are blank or there was actually something on those enclosed records, but it would appear Luke asked Veronica for this information and she sent him something. So I'm just kind of curious what that was and if you were aware of that.
I am not aware of it. I don't know what it was. And I think we could reduce a lot of this records request if we just archived it online, because it would be one time touching it. But I don't know what that was. Commissioner Ahmet would have to answer that for you.
Okay, I'm just wondering if you had seen anything on it, because I mean, I think last time we were told that there were no records that existed as far as budgets for the fair. And here Veronica clearly says she sent him something. So I'm just curious if they told you what it was, but apparently not.
They did not, but I can send an email to Veronica and ask her to provide me that information.
Okay, I'll forward what I have to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's her report, Mr. Moore.
Do you have a question? Yeah.
I do. You want me to go to?
Or you can go right there, it's closer. Go. If you, wait, you have to get through your whole thing without saying the word verbetta. No, you can't. I was just calling you out.
Whatever does to me.
Verbetta.
Yeah, because it fits right into what we're talking about here.
You
Because
always make it fit.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
because we're talking about bringing in an auditor about the fair board or whatever and so on. And I appreciate that. I think we do need to get more of clarification from somebody that's outside to be able to bring these pieces together. Luckily, it sounds like these things are steadily working forward or whatever, but we still, like you said a minute ago, we still have a past to try to know how best to go forward, that we can make better decisions. And that's why I keep bringing up the verbetta thing. And so I'm going to throw this to another level to remind all of you, I want to say particularly Asia, but it's not her.
Why not? That's what we do.
Well, the reason I'm saying this to you, whatever, because we're talking about the Idaho Attorney General, Mr. Labrador. And so when Mr. Labrador was running for office this last time, whatever, when he was on the stage debating with the other two guys, whatever, he brought up the word sacket. And so hopefully everybody has a connection of the sackets versus the EPA. And I'm bringing this up because this has to do with water and EPA and situations as Mr. Engelhardt or whatever, and Mr. Omat brought up black mold, whatever. All these things are interconnected. And so hopefully, as me bringing up Mr. Labrador now, of him making a statement that, well, he's listening supposedly, that he made a comment to the people that he was debating that day. He was chastising the incumbent, whatever, about why haven't you stepped up to help this citizen, Mr. Sackett, to get past the litigation that's going on. And so my peer group and even my people that are sworn in as in office, whatever, they have an obligation to do what's right for the citizenry. And so
Kevin, I have an answer for what we can do to address this recurring comment. I will sit down with Lewis Marshall and go through the cases in the last 2 years with the decision and what the payout was, if he deems that that can be released, so that you can know, and specifically more information about Verbetta with the list of questions, but not in the public meeting. And then I will call you and you'll come here and we'll go through it and I'll give it to you. Okay?
amen, and yeah, hopefully we'll make it more public as we go.
You do what you want with, I'm telling you, you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'll put it online for you myself.
Because the people need to know this, whatever. I mean, I asked Mr. Omat several times what our payout was. I think it was a tort claim, so I believe that's I believe that's public knowledge.
I will get that done. And then the second thing is black mold. I will contact EMS regarding the statement about black mold, and I will give you a response today on the black mold comment. Okay. Mr. Yes. Jennifer, did you approve of this message?
Fred Arndt for the record. Would you do the same, please, with Lewis Marshall on the campaign request that I sent to him?
Ooh, that's a little sneaky. I don't know about that one. Isn't it? It's because you're still arguing that. You're trying to set me up here.
No,
I will ask him. You want the
that's
number?
not true.
You want the
That's
dollar
civil-
amount?
That's the civil part that's
Okay.
being argued in court. Mine was criminal.
So clearly say what you want.
Find out what the disposition of that is.
It's done already? Okay. I'll ask. You know where to find me. Anybody else have a question for my report? All right, that'll end District 2 Commissioner report.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, I will start with, I owed John a plant an apology from last year. But I'm going to do it in person because you're here, and I can see her. She's very happy about that. I'm going to make it in person. I muddled the Pledge of Allegiance online. She called me out for it. She was right. I was wrong. Wasn't that you?
You actually wrote it.
Yeah, I know. I muddled it in typing. I miswrote it. And then you called me out on it.
Online.
And I was online. You called me out on it in person. And I said you were wrong. I was wrong. You were right. And I apologize for that. And I've also done that online after I looked at it and I was like, oh, crap. She's right and I'm wrong.
It's only because you left that under God. That was only.
Yeah, and I have no answer or excuse for it. We said it every day in my class. But anyways, you're here after I already called you the wrong human being. Now, Spencer, if you send me an email to luke.ahmet@bonnercountyid.gov, I will just forward you that email. But if you want to do it in a more discombobulated way, you go right ahead.
Well, all right. So if there's any information in there, I'd love to see it, Luke. So I will send you.
Perfect. I will forward you the information that I received. All right. In regards to my report, first I'd like to address some stuff with the Fair Board because I will be at the Fair Board to talk about, and this is the same thing that they're going to hear. I have asked to be on the agenda. It'll be curious to see if I am allowed to be on the agenda, and it's curious to see if I will be given more than 3 minutes so that we could answer questions. In regards to the audit going backwards, Mr. Clerk Rosedale brought forward that it was the tradition and history of Bonner County and its audited financial statements to consider the Fair Board as an external component. And the audits that were conducted by our independent auditor in accord with GASB standards is the way that it had been done for 20-ish years. It was also true that the counsel that was given, and I'm not going to assign motives, was that the fair was a completely external unit of Bonner County and was not audited with the financial statements that are prepared in accordance with Idaho Code 31-1701. This year, there has been, following the tragedy of Darcy Smith's death, there has been a renewed focus on the financial documents associated and the component parts of the county. There has been a accounting firm I guess it's a pretty big firm, I don't know, Eide Bailey, that was engaged by the Fair Board. And then there was also 2 law firms that were engaged by the Fair Board, Smith and Malik, as well as Brashick, McPhee, and Witherspoon. And the opinions that they rendered to the Fair Board was that they were of the belief that the fair is actually an internal component of Bonner County. With that being said, the fiscal year 2022 audit, when that was engaged, those opinions had not been rendered. And the Fair Board was not considered an internal part of the independent audit that was made. As a matter of fact, if you can go online and you can see some of our public officials stating in public, the Fair Board is an external part of the county and has no responsibility whatsoever. That was made. In addition, and I will add this to the packet so that the members of the public can see this, the Fair Board issued the Bonner County Fair Board fiscal year 2022 fraud public release. This release is issued by the chairman of the County Fair Board on behalf of the County Fair Board, and the contents herein have been reviewed and approved by legal. Please direct all questions to the chairman of the Bonner County Fair Board. The Board of County Commissioners, through use of the Bonner County Internal Auditor staff, owe statutory duties to the County Fair Board to supervise the County Fair Board's official conduct. These duties include the duty to internally and externally audit, inspect, and oversee County Fair Board books and accounts. These statutory duties were breached, in some cases willfully, in fiscal year 2022 and earlier. And there is no sign that these duties won't continue to be breached in the future, thereby harming the County Fair Board by disabling it from obtaining proper financial control over its financial operations. For example, the completely unjustifiable failure of the Board of County Commissioners to cause external audits of the County Fair Board in and prior to fiscal year 2022 deprived the County Fair Board of auditor communications, which would have helped enable the County Fair Board to prevent the fiscal year 2022 fraud. This neglect of financial oversight directly enabled the fiscal year 2022 fairgrounds fraud. Looking backwards, there was a series of events where I would argue the Board of County Commissioner, the clerk's office, and the Bonner County Fair Board, we all had room for improvement. However, statements like these, where there are crimes being alleged that are knowingly inaccurate, when in 2022, Commissioner Jeff Connolly reported fraud on his questionnaire to our external auditor, our independent auditor, when our internal comptroller reported fraud to our independent auditor in 2022, when Clerk Rosedale reported fraud to our external auditor, potential fraud, and it was brought forward in August of this year, the Fair Board has been made aware, this board has been made aware, and the prosecutor's office has been made aware, but yet statements continue to be generated as recent as November 24th, 2023. I have a real big question about how much money are we going to waste on lies? The facts are the potential fraud was reported, period. There's also facts that audits were not conducted. I don't know if the records exist. I have the records that were submitted to me by the Fair Board, and I will send them to Spencer. And if people want to email me, I will send them to anybody. My question is not necessarily looking backward, it is looking forward. And are we going to move forward? Are we going to spend time adjudicating the past? We can. But that's not the way that I believe that this county needs to move forward. We need to look at where we are, and this Board of County Commissioners has voted in an agendized and open meeting that for the first time in 20 plus years, and I don't even know going back further, that there will be an independent audit paid for by the county for the fairgrounds. That is going to happen, but we have to get there, and there is the RFP and the RFQ process. I don't even know I don't know what's going on for going backward. I am looking at fiscal year 2023 because that is where we need to start, is the right here and right now, and getting our ducks in a row. And with the current Fair Board, who half of them were not there, and there is one opening that I am aware of on that board, they're dealing with the past. And this board, about who two of us weren't here last year, as we're dealing with it. So for me, it's a real simple question of, are we gonna move forward and spend our taxpayer dollars looking ahead and investing in the future? Are we gonna look back and just be adjudicating the past? And that's a question that it's gonna be answered. No, this is my report. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Please.
No, Mr. Moore, we are moving forward with my report. The opportunity for public comment has passed. I want to start with another thing about the Fair Board. I've been there for a couple of different events, and there has been a remarkable consistency in the accolades that I have received as a Bonner County Commissioner in response to the staff for the Christmas Fair was the first one, for the Festival of Trees. On Saturday morning, I got my first call because we got our first major snow. And I want to say it was around 8 a.m. I got a phone call from a person that was involved with the Festival of Trees that was asking about what's going on with clearing that parking lot. I didn't have the answers. I texted Jody Russell and Ben Wood. They were on it right away. And the response was that, I don't know Chris's last name, but Chris is the maintenance dude over at the fair. And I gotta say, he's pretty Johnny on the spot. He works hard with limited resources. And I believe that the parking lot was cleared so that there could be a major event to generate funds for those that have less in our community. I was also there on Thursday, and I was ordered by my child to vote for her gingerbread house because it was the best. It was interesting because I was talking to another individual community member I know, and he said his child had made the exact same demand upon him. And we both complied with the orders of our daughters. So I want to be clear, the fair is doing good stuff, but there are challenges that exist, not just for the fair, as Mr. Wood said, but also for the county. And I will strongly emphasize, my focus is going forward. But if the direction that we want to go is on adjudicating the past, I think that is a waste of public resources. But I will certainly comply with my statutory obligations. In regards to Road and Bridge, we had our department head meeting yesterday, and Jason Topp came in and he said, he somewhat apologized and said, look, Road and Bridge does not fix mailboxes. The snow is heavy, it is wet, and yesterday evening I received a phone call. Someone knocked over my mailbox. I want you to come over and fix it. And they said, what are you gonna do? And let me give you full disclosure. I said, I'm not gonna do anything. I'll come over and I'll apologize, but public safety comes first. And I can't apologize for that one. And I get it that the gods of snowplows sometimes make life unfair, and some people's mailboxes survive and some people don't make it through the evolutionary chain. And I'm sorry, but we've got roads that need to be cleared. In regards to the website or the kerfluffle, that's a technical term, with that special meeting, the county website was down at that time. There was no secret hidden agenda to obscure the fact that people wanted to participate. The website was down. It was put on the Facebook page. I appreciate Mr. Bowman's comments in regards to coming up with an email list. I think that's a great idea. I think that we can try to make that happen. So I think that's fantastic. And finally, I have been in touch with Hayden Ross in regards to a letter that references not only the communications from the Fair Board, but the communications from Sheriff Daryl Wheeler, holy smoly, from Sheriff Daryl Wheeler in regards to the audit. Statute is clear. This is the responsibility of the Board of County Commissioners. We can spend our time and money adjudicating the past, or we can make a real simple determination that we are going to focus on the taxpayers that are alive and here in Bonner County and be focused on spending those resources going forward in accordance with statute, which is what my intentions are. Thank you. And that is my report. Commissioner Bradshaw, you are up next.
Thank you. Nothing too spectacular, just clear a little bit of air. And if, well, Miss G left, that garnishment was actually done through the First District Court on a hospital bill at Kootenai Medical that was incurred when I had a flying lessons from the back of a horse with a landing that would be classified as a catastrophic failure. It took me out of work for about a year, uninsured. And so it was a very large bill and it was paid, and there you have it. So that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. It is 11:58. This meeting will be recessed for 5 minutes before we go into executive session.